Buongiorno, Diana. I can't hear you. Oh, maybe. Okay.
All right. Hi, can you hear me now?
I hear you now.
All right. Good morning.
Buongiorno.
Buongiorno. Come on in. Come on in. Settle in. All right. I'm going to join us from my other class. Wow. I've got things to disconnect. I can't believe it was cold enough today that I had to have a scarf. I know I'm exaggerating, but it just feels good when you get to do a little bit of colder weather. I guess I like colder weather. Which is weird. People who live here tend to like warm weather, but I prefer colder. So I'm joining us from my other computers while I let people in. So as I begin to do this, here we go. Can you guys open your chats and sign into the chat, please? Go ahead and, all right, got it, Suzanne. Thanks for telling me. All right. And join from here. Let myself in. Okay. All right. So everyone go click on the button and then the button at the bottom that says chat and write something saying that you're here and I'm joining in with my third computer. Okay. All right. There we go. I'm all set up with all my computers. One last one. There we go. All right. Let's see how that goes. Close that. There we go. I have to normally set up one or two computers. For this class, I'm setting up three, the one that holds the Zoom and the other two with the different versions of iLife. But now that it's all set up, we should be fine to see everyone. Okay. Did I say with versions of iLife? Versions of photos. All right. So welcome. Good morning to everyone. Give me a second here. All right. Okay. So today we are going to start working on making some, this one's still not working, which is why I was, we'll get there. I'm going to wait until it comes in. We're going to start working on getting some of our photos edited. And this, I have a webcam that's kind of in a weird place today, based on something we did yesterday. That's better. So I need to, normally when I teach this class, those of you who might have taken it before, we spend a lot of time with organizing our photos. And I'm going to still be working on organizing our photos. Trust me, that's important. But there's also something pretty crucial that people want to know, which is how to fix their photos. And usually we spend so much time organizing them that we kind of leave fixing the photos till the very end. So I'm going to blend in a bit more fixing photos and organizing. Okay. So while we're doing this whole, beginning conversation of what questions you have and how it went and things like that, start looking at your photos that are in front of you. Don't, with a half eye, because I want you paying attention to what I'm saying, but try to find a photo that you'd like to fix. And the kind of parameters I want you to consider are something that you might want to crop. And I mean, so that these might be different photos, but I'm just throwing out some ideas. Something that you might want to crop, something that you might, or straighten, like the positioning of what you want is not in the right place. Consider a photo that maybe is too dark or too bright, or has, some problem in it. So keep an eye on a few of those. And we're actually going to make a little album today, which is part of organizing. And I want you to start, as the day goes by, as a course goes by, whenever you see a photo that you go, oh, maybe I'd like to ask Deanna how to fix this one, to actually put it in that album. And that'll help us introduce to how to make albums, what's the purpose of these albums, how to use them. And also that album will become useful for us as we start working on fixing our photos. When I say, okay, pick up an example of a photo that you want to crop, and then you can go to that album and we can all open a photo, and then I'll teach you how to crop, and you can do that. Does that make sense? So it'll be part of learning how to organize photos, and also part of actually having an example ready to go for when we need to do some editing. So while you guys do that, I'm gonna put in the chat a little listing. Here, let me type in here. Look for photos that you want to, and now I'm gonna make a little list that you want to crop, straighten. I'm writing it in the chat right now. Straighten, too dark, too light, not sharp enough. What's the other one? Colors are off. Like, for example, old photos where they've kind of started to fade, you know what I mean? Photos from the 60s that have the look of photos from the 60s or 70s because they're getting off, or colors that are off because, remember, it used to be that we'd have tungsten lighting and you'd go take a photo inside and everything would look orange. And you might not have any of those if you haven't been, if you only been putting digital photos in there, those don't happen so much anymore. But if some of you guys have photos scanned that are older photos, you might have some of that. Photos that you want in black and white. Photos you can experiment on in case you mess it up. So sometimes you have photos in there that you know that you don't care about, that if you mess it up, it's okay, because we might ask you to do some things that you might mess them up. Most of the times it won't matter. Things are able to be changed, but just in case, it's okay to consider that you might want do some things that you might mess it up. So I put a little list there in the chat. Those of you who are not looking at chats, look at the chat. For that, go down to the button that says chat, and instead of seeing little things as they come in, just click on it and it'll open up as a little bar. And then you can click on it to turn it off. So if it takes up too much real estate, you can turn it off again. But go ahead and turn it on to read these options that I wrote, okay? And we're going to be, and then also, not right now, of course, I'm not asking you to do this all right now. This is, I'm telling you a little bit of this so that you start writing it down as homework. You start going through your stuff. Today we're going to create that album where you're going to start putting these photos in there, okay? And then I want you to see if you have any videos, a few short ones that we might want to put together to make a movie. So that's the last thing. You might want to choose a few videos that if you were to, you know, splice them together, you would see that there's a movie of a moment. It doesn't have to be a moment. Maybe it's a movie of your kids 3 years in a row and you see them growing, or it could be a movie of a visit somewhere and it's 3 little clips of that thing, or you traveled in Europe and you have 3 little videos, whatever, just an idea of things that you might want to put together. Because you will see, I'll show you how to find your movies in photos, but in photos you can't put them together. They're just individual videos. But in iMovie, we can splice them together and make a little movie out of them. Okay. All right. So I might have a few more things that I want you to put in there, but that kind of covers it. Now, how and where is this place I'm asking you to put these in and stuff like that? That's what we're going to do now. But I want you to copy these down. I'm going to send an email about this as well, but if you now can make a copy paste into your notes app, or if you guys use a Word app or a Pages app, or I don't know what what version of things you write in that you make, go ahead and you can copy these from the chat and paste them in, and then keep them in mind for things to put together. But as I said, I'll send an email with this so that you can keep doing it on your own. Okay, so tell me how it's been going. Has anyone been using the Photos program over this week? Doing anything new or different that you wouldn't have done that you've been doing because of us here? Have you been checking on whether your photos are linking across the board? Have you tried to see photos in your phone that you wouldn't have known where they were now that you saw them in the computer? Give me some idea of something that someone might have done new or different, or questions you might have based on something that you might have done this week, if anything. Yes, Marcia?
Hi, Diana. Good morning.
Good morning.
In the past, when I've tried to learn photos, I made extra folders with duplicate pictures in it. And in a previous class, you made a statement of of how I wouldn't be deleting the picture from all of my photos. And can you remind me of what that was again?
How to duplicate or how to delete? Which part?
If we delete in a folder or in a file, is the photo still part of our collection?
Yeah, right now, when I kind of laid out what I want you guys to do, I haven't yet explained the intricacies, which are the questions that you have, like how can you put them in there and have them delete, not delete, and stuff like that. So that's kind of the gist of the class. So yeah, I'll definitely get to that. Thanks. Because finding these photos and me telling you, well, we're gonna crop them, and you're like, oh, well, I'm not sure I want to crop this one in case I mess it up. Don't worry, I'll be teaching you how to work on things that you don't have duplicates of, you just want to fix, and whether that's fixable or not. And if you mess it up, is it a terrible thing, or is it something that's not so terrible? And you'll find out the answer is that it's not so terrible, because you can always undo your changes. But also I'll teach you how to, for some of them, duplicate, because you want just two versions of the same photo. You want one cropped and one uncropped, right? So you can have your pick of what you want to do. And when I'm saying we're going to put them in an album, you'll find out that putting them in an album does not mean that they're taken away from anywhere else. So you might have a photo that you love that you already have in an album, those of you who already know about albums, and you can put it in another album again, and that's okay. You can have it in many albums without duplicating it. So I'm going to explain that actually by doing it instead of throwing it out there. But yes, we'll, as we go and we pick a photo to work on, I'll show you and tell you what the best and the worst that can happen to it for you to know whether you want to work on that one. Okay, but for now, just choose them, because in general, it's pretty safe to work on stuff. And so the first thing I'm going to have us do before we do anything else right now, and even explain the intricacies of this, is just to make an album, so that if, as we talk and you scroll up and down, because I'm having you scroll up and down for some reason, you go, oh, that photo would be great, you can immediately grab it and put it in that album, so that as we speak, by the time we get to needing one of those, you'll have one of those in there. Okay, so that's the first thing we're going to do. Before we continue and move on to doing that, any other questions, you guys?
Yeah. Diane?
Yes. Hi, Pat.
I have, well, I guess everybody has so many photos, okay? But I have a lot of duplicates. Like I was going through my, quote, the photos, just no albums or anything, and still they wind up with, like, I have that same picture, either 4 different places or side by side. And I know the computer's only as smart as I am, but how would I be able to just click on a picture and say, get rid of all the duplicates?
Say the last thing about, I might need to put on headsets on. I'm having a hard time hearing you loud enough. I heard most of what you said, but let me put on headsets, because it wasn't totally clear. The sound on this computer is not very loud. So you were saying you find that you do have a lot of duplicates, but now you want to know how to make more duplicates? I thought you would have wanted to.
No. How can I get rid of, what happens to go through, every time I go through stuff, I find myself another 10 minutes eliminating all these duplicates.
Mm-hmm.
So is there a way that I can look at my photos, click on a picture, not in albums or anything, just in the regular photo thing, and I don't know, say get rid of my duplicates?
It's
some of them are side by side, and it's easy. But
it's the biggest problem that that's not, that it's one of the biggest problems with not an easy fix. Okay, because it depends on the reason for your duplicates. And if you have had a Mac for many years, including from when it was iPhotos through Photos, for a while there, every time you upgraded to a new version, or when you upgraded a new OS, Photos or iPhotos used to mess up and make duplicates. That's one of the reasons they actually switched to Photos. There was some real problem with duplicates, but not all across the board. You wouldn't know, some would get duplicated, some would not. And so if you guys have had computers for quite a while, that probably bears with me. You probably have Pat's experience, that you'll be finding an area where suddenly there's duplicates everywhere, and you're like, why? And suddenly it's, you know, for a few months you have duplicates everywhere, and then suddenly you don't have duplicates anymore. who has that happen to them? Give me a little yes if you have areas where you find a bunch of duplicates, and maybe you just have isolated duplicates, but if you have areas where you find that, you know, that, yeah, suddenly I have for a year worth of duplicates somewhere, and then you don't, or a month, or a whole event or something is in there in a duplicate way. So those are hard, because unless you buy separate apps, of which I have never heard anyone be happy with anyone in particular. I have read reviews from many different apps, and I have heard people say what they've tried, and no one's ever told me this one really does this well. And photos are such a precious thing we don't want to lose. So I got to the point where I've kind of decided to put up with old duplicates, because if you try to have another app that comes in and searches your folders and gets rid of duplicates, in my case, I have not found any of the ones I've tried to do it well. But oh, by the way, Photos does not have something that automatically eliminates duplicates. And here's why: because a lot of times the metadata of those photos changes. And we're going to talk about what's the metadata, but the metadata is that which gives you the information of when it's not the visual part, but it's what the camera retains, which is when it was taken, how it was taken, with what camera, how as in what exposure, what this, what that, all of that kind of stuff is metadata. But file name is also metadata, file size, file type is also metadata. And sometimes, depending on how things were copied and how things were updated, you have duplicates that were made where the metadata changed a little bit. And so then they're not considered duplicates anymore. And so the program doesn't look at them as duplicates. It's another photo that happens to look exactly the same. And other times you have the problem that file names overlap. So I don't know if you guys know with photos, but when you get to, with your camera gets to, I don't know, I think it's 10, a number is 10,000 or something, then it starts at 1 again. So, you know, the numbers that the photos cycle through, they start all over again. So you might have a file number, and this is the main problem I have with issues with files that are, with apps that get rid of your photos, is that the computer finds 2 file numbers that are the same and assumes it's the same photo. And you might discover that no, it's 3 years apart. This photo is of you in Egypt and this photo is of you in California, right? But they have the same file number. So a program that doesn't look at the internal metadata of the photo to discover, oh, these are 2 different locations or stuff like that, then, so that's what external programs are bad at. And the internal programs might look at photos that look the same with metadata and then miss the fact that they're not the same one. When you have the understanding of what's happening and you use these programs, you discover that I've discovered that I would have lost some pretty valuable photos had I gone ahead with the program and said, okay, you can kind of review them first. So I don't have any program I would comfortably say to you, use this program for that, and Photos doesn't do that. So there are some solutions. When you get to an area where there's chunks that are repeated, those are a little bit safer, because the ones that are chunks that are repeated, sorry, I was trying to read a question that came in at the same time as I speaking. I can't. Sometimes when it's a short question, I can speak and read, but when it's a long one, I have to look away for a minute until I can finish my sentence. So when it's chunks that are all suddenly repeated, it's a little bit easier, because what I find is that I can automatically go, oh, every second photo, I can go click, 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 and in a couple of clicks, choose those 50 duplicates, do one little delete, and I got rid of 50 at the same time. So it takes a bit of time, but it's not so time intensive. But when it's here and there, there's a duplicate, here and there, there's a duplicate, then you just need to, when you find them, get rid of them. But also I want to warn you that there might be slightly different. So I'm going to teach you to read the metadata where some of them might be duplicates, but they might not be the same photo. One might be really tiny and only good to share on screen, and one might be really big and good to and good to print. And you might have made that change at some point, so you need to read the metadata. So I'm going to teach you a bit more about metadata so that you can distinguish, so you can see which are the good ones to throw away and which is not. So yeah, the duplicates is the one problem that photos created and by being itself, but that has never been very good at deleting, because nothing it has that's automatic is good enough to get rid of duplicates. Other Apple apps, contacts, things like that, they have really good duplicate mechanisms to merge or delete, but not photos. Because it's too easy to think that it's the same photo and it not be the same photo and then get rid of a seriously important one. Yeah, so that's the biggest conundrum that's not fixable. Now let me read, there's two questions that I think are apropos to what I'm saying, so let me read them. Again, having looking at photos on a computer, took on my phone, see my keeper delete, now keep some for fixing. Okay, Suzanne, that was fine. That's a great idea. And then when I migrated from Mojave to Catalina, in the Photos app, I have an album called iPhoto Events with 61 albums. Based on previous class, you recommend that I import iPhotos into Photos. What do I do now? Hide the iPhoto Events. Okay. For those of you who used iPhotos in the time of iPhotos, there was something called photo events where there were albums created with things that had certain time groups. So things that were of us, like right now, you just see things by view, by dates, by month, you just see them. But in the old iPhotos, by now, iPhotos is many, many years old. What it would do, it would create events based on dates. So it would see you took 10 photos at a certain date, and it would assume it was an event, like a birthday party or a trip or a moment, right? So it would call them an event, and it created tons of things that are equivalent. It created some things called events that when photos occurred, when photos got created, they translated as albums. Now, for those of you who still don't even know what albums are or all these things are, this is just an esoteric conversation. So I will show you what albums are, and I will explain that a bit. You'll understand a bit better. But if you have photos in your program from the time of iPhotos, you will have an album full of iPhoto events. Don't delete the albums necessarily if they mean something to you. If those albums do organize things in a way that makes sense to you, then don't delete them. But if all they are is the ones that iPhoto created and they mean nothing, and you might as well just have them all in a row, then you can delete the albums, though not the photos. So Charlene, you're the one who asked the question. So when we get to the albums portion, and I start explaining albums, then I can go more specifically and explain more clearly what I mean by keeping the photos but not the albums. If the albums are meaningless, if they are just groupings that mean nothing to you, that just iPhotos did automatically. Now, if they are albums that you created, some of you guys have albums you created with places you've been or things like that, you wouldn't, even from the time of iPhotos, then you wouldn't want to get rid of those. So anyway, when we start putting our hands on albums, then we can actually go more specifically into looking at your albums, Charlene, and I can show what I mean more specifically by you sharing your photos. Okay? So Yolanda saying, I drag from photo gallery to desktop, and then I trash after the purpose is served. Is that okay? So Yolanda, you mean that if there's a photo that you want to use for something else, like you said, like you might want to, you don't need to drag it anywhere if you want to email it. So I'm wanting to know what else you do with it. And then when you don't want it anymore, you can trash it. Yeah, any one of you who took photos for certain needs, like maybe someone asking you, take pictures of this event, you took the pictures, you gave them the photos, you don't need them in your personal photo gallery anymore, you can delete them. Yeah, you're fine deleting them. but I want to talk more about the dragging them to the desktop because that might or not be necessary anymore with the new photos. So can you speak? Oh, there you go, Yolanda. Can you tell me more?
The reason I had to drag is because like I have about 40,000 pictures in my gallery, and to go through one by one, even if I say year, in the year alone, let's say year 2018, there would be too many months and too many trips and too many travels. I got crazy. So if I have to, let's say somebody says, will you please post what you did in Egypt?
Mm-hmm.
Then I have to go through that whole, instead of in other words, I know what you say, you can click the arrow and share, but then to me, it takes so much time and so time consuming. So I just select and drag it on the desktop. So that was my question. Is that safe to do so? And because I know, yeah, okay.
Ideally you wouldn't do that, but I'll explain the reason why. It's not bad. And in fact, I have been known to do that as well. But I know how many photos you send and how much you do. And my concern is that every time you do that, when you drag photos from photos onto the desktop, you are creating a duplicate in your computer. In iPhotos, when you create duplicates, they still stay as one photo. And go, if you don't know what I'm talking about, say la 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 and forget about it for a minute, because I want to clarify that with much more conversation. But you can have a photo in 20 different albums and it's still one photo as far as how much space it takes in your computer. But once you drag it out, that is a copy. And so if you start dragging out and having a ton of photos outside, you've got doubles of those photos. And then if you don't efficiently delete them immediately after you've sent them to someone, then later you might go, oh, I have all these photos here and there. I wonder if I have them again. So you might drag them back in again. And by doing that, you might yourself be creating those duplicates, right?
Okay.
So there's warning signs. Now, if you're really cautious and you drag one out, you send it and you throw it away, well, sure. But it could be dangerous based on what I just said. Now, plus, you guys, I don't want you to think that's the right way. That is one possible way, but there are easier ways that if you get accustomed to using albums, you can create an album really quickly. You can create a little album, the five photos that you want to send. You make a little album called Egypt or whatever event. Share from there so you don't have to look for them. And then after that, you just get rid of that album. And then you don't have to create duplicates. So that would be a more efficient way of doing the same thing. Because at some point you do need to find them, right? To share them with these people. And that instead of dragging them out, the moment you found those 5 photos, instead of dragging them out at that moment, with those 5 photos, you create a little album saying, for Susan, because you're going to send them to Susan, or give it the name of the event, lunch at wherever. Make that little album, have a place where you put these little temporary albums just to share, and then share from there. When you know you don't want those photos separated from anything else anymore, you can just delete that album without deleting the photos. So if you get more comfy with that, you can do it that way. And hopefully maybe we can do more of that practice today. Because to make individual albums of stuff. So today, since we're now using your own libraries, as opposed to the last time I taught this, there will be different kind of questions coming up which pertain more with issues or problems that have happened in the many years of you having your photos album. For those of you who are relatively new, that won't happen. But for some people who've been doing this for many years, I've gone in to see some of your albums when you share, and there's some myriad sets of problems that I'm going to try to deal with. But it's not the problem that everyone has. So I'm going to try to deal more with the issues that everyone has and applying that to your things. And then when you have individual type of issues, maybe leave the last 10, 15 minutes of each class for, okay, now this is something that's only happening to this person, and then help that person. So others can look in if they want, they can hang out and learn, or they can take off because it didn't apply to them. Does that make sense? So if it's a question that is like, well, this is really not something that most people go through, then I'll ask you to keep an eye on that. And then when I say, okay, who has one of those things that is only happening to them, then we'll do that in the last 10, 15 minutes of class. Now, Lots of you arrived after I had reminded people to go to the chat and sign in. So make sure to go to the chat and say you're arriving. Now I just want to read a couple more. You're saying that if you get rid of events, it doesn't delete the photo, is what Pat said. And in a succinct way, yes, that's true. Getting rid of the event. Now, when I say event, it's just for people who have events from the past. We don't have a thing called events anymore in photos. It's just people who inherited them from old iPhotos, okay? If you get rid of the event itself, the photos stay. But before you do that, grab one full of photos that you don't care about too much and give it a try and see if that's so and that's true. You always need to test because there might be a distinction or a possibility that yours has some issue with it. So maybe for those of you who have these iPhoto events, go ahead and if you know what I'm saying, if you've seen iPhoto events, you would read it somewhere. You would know you have them. If so, give me a yes so I know how many of you guys I'm talking to when I talk about the iPhoto events. Give me a little green yes. So if you don't remember how to do that, in the bottom of your screen, you have, when you hover, you need to move your mouse to liven up the zoom, and then the toolbar turns on, and there's something called participants. Turn that on by clicking on it once, and then once it's on, you will be able to see the yeses and the nos and that kind of stuff. For those of you whose screen gets too tiny, just know that by clicking the chat or the participants, use it and then clicking it to turn it off again, then you can answer, but not need to be constantly seeing the listing. Okay, so there's about 4 of you guys who have said that you have the events issue. Okay, we'll talk about that a bit later for anyone who wants to deal with the iPhoto events particularly. We'll talk about that at the end of the class. So you 4, Owen and Susanna and Pat and Charlene, at the end, remind me that I said I was going to leave some time for talking about iPhoto events. That said, when I talk about albums, a lot of your answers should be the same, because an event is basically an album, just that it was created for you by iPhotos versus you creating it yourself. So when we talk about albums, listen to everything I say about albums, and that would apply also to all these photo events that just were created for you when things turned into photos. Okay. All right. Is there a way to see photos of not been put in albums? Of course. Basically all the photos that you see through the way I showed you last week when you were looking at it from clicking on photos, and then days, years, collections, moments, all of those, depending on what version you have, that's all your photos. They're just seen by date. That's all your photos. When you want to not see all your photos, like Yolanda was saying, she has 40,000 photos. You don't want to be seeing all your photos all the time. Then when there's some photos that are important enough for you to want to isolate, that's when you make an album. So that then you can go back and look for just photos of this family, just photos of this moment, just photos of this trip, right? So those you put in albums, but here's the important thing. Putting them in albums allows you to see those particular photos separately from the rest, but when you're looking at them from all photos, you're still seeing them in the mix. They don't disappear from the mix. So now I'm going to actually demonstrate that, because that's the hardest concept for people to understand, that putting something in an album does not take them out of the stream of photos. When you're looking at them the way we saw them last week, which is the basic photos, days, months, years, moments, collections, all those versions that you saw at the top, that is every single photo in your computer by date. Okay, every single photo by date. That's showing every single photo. You have to drag yourself to that date and time to see a certain subset of photos. But that is how you see all your photos, by doing what we did last week, which we're going to do again now as soon as I start sharing. But I'm seeing some hands up, so I'm going to take a couple more questions and then we're going to go to sharing. So yeah, Susanna?
The reason I asked that question about So what I did is I have some folders. So I thought this week I'll add a few folders. I'll do a little more organizing. And then I realized I don't know which photos are already in albums and which ones still need to be organized. And there's a lot of them. And so I was trying, like, I want to see which ones I haven't organized yet. And I don't know if there's a way to do that.
No, actually, there isn't. And that, I know, that's also, I know, that's another one of those, oh, come on, really? But this is why, but I mean, it makes sense. My answer of this is why makes sense. I would love to have not an album option, right? But the problem is that if they were separated that way, then you would only be able to put one photo in one album and nothing else. Because the thing about albums is that you might have a photo that, yes, was from your Egypt trip, but that photo is also one that you want to put under best photos of my family. And it's also the one that you want to put under create calendar for the end of the year. So that same photo can belong in 3 different albums or 10 different albums, depending on its need. If it's your best photo, you might have it in many different places, like photos to put in my, greeting card or something like that. So it would be hard to say once you put it in an album, then it's not in the main set of photos anymore. Then you would have to go into these albums to find your photos, versus when you go to the all photos, you truly see all your photos again. Does that make sense? That said, it would be nice though. That said, it would be nice if at least we could see, as there's icons that mark when you've edited, when you've done this. It would be nice if we could see icons in albums so that at least we would know which ones have not. I totally get you. It's one of my pet peeves. And in fact, there's suggestions you can make to the developers of things that you'd like to see. I'd like to see a little thing that reminds me, yes, this one I have already organized, not necessarily in which way or not, but I've already organized.
So there's no way, like maybe a category or a keyword or something that you could add.
Oh, there's a ton, and you can do that for yourself. You can do that. You can go into all your albums and add a keyword saying, just call it in album, right? And then you can add that keyword to everything. And so but that's up to you. But and for those of you who don't know yet about clearly Susanna has, you've taken this class before, right? So those of you who are going, this sounds like, oh, Chinese, this is what you'll understand. This is the things she's saying is what you'll understand by the end of this class, because she's asking about things that I've taught in class. But yeah, it's up to you. You can do a lot with your photos, and you can mark them as put somewhere, right? But photos doesn't do that for you automatically. Okay, so I'm ready to start sharing a little bit. Oh, there's one more questions. The difference between moments and collections, is it the same as events? No, and I will explain. Please forget the word events unless you see events in your album because you used to have iPhotos and turned into photos, and iPhoto created something called events for you. Other than that, the word event means nothing to the new photos. Since, I mean, photos already has been around since 2012, like 8 years. So I'm talking, or something like, I don't remember the dates exactly, but anyone who had albums in iPhotos, when they transitioned over, they're called events because they used to be called events in iPhotos. That's the only reason to use events. So nothing is the same as events, other than if you want albums, okay? But in the past, what iPhotos called events, Photos calls albums. So that is the equivalent, but we can't create events anymore. But there are events in your app if they came from the time of iPhotos. Now it's all called albums. So that's the equivalent, events and albums. And moments and collections are not the same thing. So when we shifted from Mojave to Catalina, remember I showed you last week that there's quite a bit of a difference. In Catalina, on the top bar, you see months, days, years, and all photos, okay? So let's do another, remind me if you're in Catalina, give me a yes, and if you're in Mojave, give me a raised blue hand, and I want everyone to answer so that I can be pretty clear. So Catalina is a green yes, and Mojave is a blue hand. Those of you who are, by the way, in Mojave, the new OS has come out. It's still kind of in beta. The new OS being Big Sur, I don't think you can install it yet. But the moment it goes live, which is very soon, usually it happens in October, November, then you won't be able to upgrade to Catalina anymore. You will have to switch to Big Sur. So if you're in High Sierra, Mojave, anything older, it's time, if your computer can handle it, to move to Catalina. I told you that there are some issues with Catalina with older programs that might not work. So you need to begin to figure out if that's where you are. But the problem is that once they launch a new OS, and it will happen any day now, you cannot then upgrade to that intermediate step. You cannot say, well, I don't want Big Sur, I just want to move up to Catalina. No, then the only choice will be to go up to Big Sur. And then if your computer is maybe on the iffy scale, it'll be even iffier to move up to Big Sur. And then you won't want to go up to Big Sur for quite a few months, if not at least 6 months, to make sure that Big Sur is working well. So I want to say that if even my old computer, that's 2011, I moved up to Catalina and it's doing fine. So the issue isn't so much how old your computer is, rather if you have apps that are running on your computer that are 8-bit versus 16-bit, and that's the issue. So if you're the kind of person who uses apps that are not just Apple, like you have a special app that handles, for example, actually, I know, Annette, what program do you use for your genealogy? Does it have a name?
Oh, I have Reunion, but I'm not using it very much.
Okay, so some of you guys have apps for specific things that are not Apple apps, right? Or some of you have, for example, the old versions of Photoshop and stuff like that. So those apps that are really old, they won't work in Catalina anymore. So if you have any of those questions, it is time to get, so here you go. I'm going to say it's time to upgrade to Catalina. Okay. So call Apple, I'm going to say, if you have old programs, they can show you how, and I can show you in my Mac class, but my Mac class doesn't start till mid-October and it might be too late. They can show you how to see if your old programs will work on Catalina. So I'm kind of writing this down to make sure that everyone keeps reading it. So Becky, you have Roots Magic. I don't know what that is, Becky. Can you give me a quick little explanation?
It's a genealogy program.
Okay, thank you. So if these programs are not internet-based, thus they're not being updated and they're old programs that you might have used, you might want to go into your Roots Magic support or Reunion support or whatever and ask them, is this compatible with Catalina, right? They will know.
Right.
But if they don't know, then there's a way you go into your system under the Apple about this Mac. There's a way to go into your system and to check which programs are running 16 or 8-bit, and they can, people at Apple support. Does everyone have the number handy that you can type it in the chat? Some of you guys know, then you call them all the time. They're really helpful. I don't have it handy with me.
I have
so
a
then
2000, excuse me, I have a 2011 Mac Air, and that one document you sent us in Apple's website says I can only go to High Sierra, that's as far as it would go. You mentioned you had a 2011 that
actually,
Catalina.
I'm wrong. It's a 2012. I
So
said 2011. It's a mid 2012. I'm looking at it. So yeah, If it's a 2011, all you can do is High Sierra.
Okay.
Once it's 212, there's the early, mid, and late. The way the dates of the computers, they're considered early 2012, mid 2012, or late 2012. And that is like the way they always distinguish their images. And so the early 2012 don't work either, but the mid to late 2012, they can be upgraded. So there's a time after which the way the computer is made just doesn't have the wherewithal to handle Catalina. So yes, I misspoke when I said 2011. It is a 2012 and I was able to upgrade it. So anything older than that, upgrade it all the way to High Sierra and then just live in High Sierra until you're ready to someday buy a new computer. Other than that, you're fine living in High Sierra. But if you're moving, thank you, Pat. Okay, guys, in the chat, Pat, oh, Leon too, you guys wrote down the numbers for Apple Care. Okay. Oh, how cool. Apple Care, APLCARA. I didn't know that. Okay, so there's the phone number and the acronym, I guess. Write them down and call them and say, help me figure out if my computer programs, what am I going to lose by moving up? Another question you might have is peripherals. Peripheral devices, and I wrote the word there because that's sometimes people don't know. And that means your printers, mainly. Most of you mainly have printers. There are some other apps, like I have a monitor, a color calibrator that doesn't work in Catalina, for example. So there's other things that you might have that you attach to your computer. You might have old webcams or things like that. But for the most part, here I'm talking and I'm falling out of it. But for the most part, it's printers that might stop working. Now, if the printer has an update, you just bring out a new driver, then that's fine. But if not, you might need to know that upgrading means that will not work anymore. So if you have a very old printer and it's been working forever, but it's very, very old, it might not be able to upgrade to a new driver. But very old now, I'm talking, 10 years. But, my printers never last that long. The printers don't. Other equipment does last forever. So that's what you need to consider before you move up to Catalina. But if you're fine and your programs that don't work are programs you haven't used for 5 years anyway, or even 2 years anyway, because you moved on to something else, then go ahead and move up to Catalina. Because very soon you won't be able to move up to Catalina. You'll have to move up to Big Sur. Yes, Annette?
I called Apple yesterday about upgrading and asked them to look through my apps to tell me which would be outdated. And she wouldn't do that. She asked me what programs are important. So I told her that, have Office, because I have an old Office 2000. And she said I would not be able to use that, but she wouldn't go through my list and tell me what wouldn't be available. But maybe she was just one.
Yeah, maybe they're having so many people at this point with that question that they're deciding not to support it. I can show you maybe I'm urging you to do it, and it's not part of the photos program, but if you stay behind after class, I can spend an extra few minutes pointing you as to where to do it. And then, you know what? There's definitely something online I can find and send to you guys to tell you what the steps are. It's not hard to find out actually at all. The issue is that it's not part of this class. So anyway, I'll try, remind me at the end of class when I say, okay, what else did I say I would tell you after class? That's one of them. Okay, I can show you how to check your programs.
Yana.
Yes?
For Annette, Apple as a corporation have hired thousands of new techs, and some of them are very not savvy. They've hired lots of seemingly teenage girls. I don't know where they find them all, but ask for a senior advisor. Don't be shy. They owe it to you. Say, I would like to talk to a senior advisor. No offense, but I've already talked to regular techs and I'm not getting my answers met. So it'll work if you just have to be a little pushy kind of and you'll have much better luck.
Okay, I do want to speak in defense of teenage girls who many times know much more about computers than anyone else. But other than that, yeah, I completely do agree that you just got to try again or ask with someone else, because some of times they can spend hours with you and be ridiculously helpful. And other times they might, kind of send you off. But my experience with them has always been that they've always been tremendously helpful. I haven't had that many people say no, but maybe they've reached a point where they assume you need to, I don't know, for this issue, they need to do it on your own. So yeah, either ask for someone else to help or call again and get someone else. Okay. I'm going to start sharing my computer to answer the question that Carol had, which is what made me continue talking about changing to Catalina, because her question was, is collections, moments the same and that kind of stuff. And okay, someone's clock, grandfather clock. Which if you have a grandfather clock, that's cool. I haven't heard one in a long time. But so she asked that, and that is a question that pertains only to Mojave version and older. Okay, so at this point, anyone who raised their little blue hand, that's 4 of you guys, if you have the older version, then ooh, I'm looking at the names of participants, and I'm noticing there's a name here that I will not know how to give attendance to. Who shows up as Debrug? Look at the participants, and someone's showing up as Debrug. If that's you, I will not know who you are to give you attendance. And usually if it's a second computer with a weird name, then that doesn't matter. But since you raise your hand on it, it's probably your main. So can you go to your little video that shows the Debrug on it, click on the 3 little arrows that appears when you hover over it, and then change your name and rename it to something that I will know who you are? Debrug, are you there? Oh, now Debrug lowered their hand, so I still don't know who Debrug is. Can you speak? No?
Mystery.
Who's okay? I don't know who Debrug is, and I need to know. Hello, Debrug, are you there? At least write down, if you can't speak, write in the chat who you are, and then change your name. Okay, and I might lose sight of you again, but then this happens to me at the end of the day. I can't do attendance if I don't know who you are. So I don't want to kick you out of class, but I need everyone to tell me who they are, or I can't let you stay. So if you hover over your little video of yourself, and if you see that it says Debrug, that's you. Okay, and if you don't know, then look at your participants list and see how you're showing up. I think for you, it just shows up as me. Okay. Oh, Debrug is gone. So maybe there was someone here who shouldn't have been there. Interesting. Because they're gone. I didn't see anyone change their name. Okay. All right. Good. I didn't think the solution would be that they'd leave, but there you go. All right. Ready for, I'm gonna start sharing my screen now. I'm gonna share the one that has the moments and collections really quickly, because that's the one that I want to start by explaining. So you all remember that when you had, Mojave or under, I'm sharing in one computer, and with Catalina, I'm sharing in another. So just don't get confused if what you're seeing in front of you doesn't look like your version. This is Mojave, High Sierra, and under, and older. Okay, so this is the older version. So here's what I was saying. When you click on photos here on the left and photos here on the right, then this is every single photo you own, okay? So what's in here is every single photo you own. And moments breaks it up into moments. This doesn't go down to months or years, rather moments. So here I have January 14th, January 15th, January 28th. So it doesn't give you the luxury of months and years. It just divides it into, so that day I have 3 photos. And for this day I only have 1. And for that day I have 2. So they call it moments, but it doesn't show up anywhere than other here. And I find this to be the most useful place in the old version to hang out in, because then I can scroll up and down and find things by date. Okay. But when you have 40,000 photos, it still gets confusing to see them, you know, this way. When I say, okay, I want to go find, you have to kind of scroll quite a while to find. I only have a few photos per year here because it's a sample. But most of us for per year have, you know, hundreds, if not thousands or many thousands of photos. So it takes quite a bit of scrolling to get to where you want to go. But you see the dates up there? That's what Moments does. It organizes it for you just to visually see it by date, but not by months or years, just specifically by date. It'll put together many photos of that day all together at the same time. Okay? That's what Moments is. Is that pretty clear? Any other questions about Moments before I move on?
I do, Diane. I'm working on the Catalina, but the same thing with the dates. It means I use those pictures on that day, or I put them into my photos. They're like, a lot of them are old pictures, but they show up in September 2020.
Okay, so thank you for asking that. The only exception to this is if you scanned in old photos and those scans, as far as the computer is concerned, that photo got created on the day you scanned it, because before it was on a piece of paper, it wasn't a digital image. So the date for any scanned photos will be the date that was scanned. So if the photo is from the 1960s, but you just photographed it, scanned it in, or somehow got it into the computer in digital form, then you have to change the date on those and assign it the correct date. Okay, so if you have the wrong date on a photo, you can change the date. So let me go to any photo. I don't have here an example of wrong date, which is silly. I usually have one, but now that I think about it, I don't have it in this example. So say that this photo here, actually this is the wrong date on this photo, which is interesting. This is a video, but I'm going to go to any photo. Okay, whatever. I'm going to stop right here and say that this photo has the wrong date, right? So then what you can do is you can change its date. So I need to actually reshare, because right now the way I'm sharing, you don't see the stuff that's up at the top. So everyone who has photos that have the wrong date, okay, and I'm truly talking about the wrong date, and it would happen to be only for photos that are scanned in, okay, then you need to go up, select the photo that you need to change, right? And then I'll teach you how to select more than one, but put your mouse on one that needs to change. Or for those of you who don't have any old scanned photos, choose a photo that's bad, that you don't care. Just select a photo that you really would have tossed otherwise. Just select one. By select, I mean click on it, right? And then go up to the top where it says image, and I can't demonstrate. I'll have to change my sharing to show my entire desktop, which you'll see less, but at least you'll see what I mean by going to the top. See, up at the very top of my screen over here, there's something called image, adjust date and time. Okay, so again, select the photo that you want to change. So I want to change the date on something. Say that I want to change the date on this one. I go up to image, adjust date and time, and then here you can adjust it to the right date. So if you know it's from the 1960s or the 1940s, or you know, whenever it is, you probably won't remember the day and year and month. Maybe you will know it's summer, you know, so then give it, you know, June or something like that. But what matters is the year. And then when you're done changing that date, you say adjust. And once you've done that, the photo will flip. It will look like it disappeared. But if you scroll to the very, very top, you should see up there something that says, you know, 1960s or 1970s or 1980s or something like that, because you've adjusted its date and time. Does that make sense?
No, I didn't. I clicked on that eye up there, but it doesn't say adjust date and time.
Okay, I didn't ask you to click on the eye at all.
Oh.
It wasn't the eye. I said go up to the very top, image, the word image, which starts with I, but it is not the same as clicking on the eye. Okay, so
No,
go
way over here. Yeah.
up
okay.
to image, adjust date and time.
All right. Thank you.
Diana,
Yeah.
I have Catalina. I have photos highlighted just like you have photos highlighted, but I'm not seeing those 4 choices up top: photos, moments, collections, years.
I am not in Catalina. I am in Mojave. So
Oh,
what are you in?
Catalina.
Okay.
No, but I found it. It's over to, it's not on the top of my photos. It's over to the left of the whole, we're in photos. It says file, edit, image. On the
No,
left side.
yeah, but he's talking about something else. So up top, this doesn't change. This is the same for everyone. Catalina or Yosemite or whatever you're in. Right next to the apple, you'll see the word photos, and then you'll see file, edit, image, view, window, help. That is for everyone. You'll see that. Well, let me confirm. Let me go to Catalina and make sure that there isn't a new. Hold on, I'm in this computer to make. Yeah, that's still there. File, edit, image, view, help. That doesn't change. You all have that same menu up there. Okay. So what Leon's saying is that you don't see photos, moments, collections, and years. This is what you don't see, right?
Right.
Okay. You should be seeing, remember, it's important to be under photos here on the left.
I am.
So if you're somewhere else, I know, but for anyone else who has this question, I'm establishing the parameters. Photos has to be selected on the left, okay? And once photos is selected on the left, and this is for every single person, photos has to be selected on the left. Then at the top here, if you are in Catalina, you would be seeing years, months, days, all photos. And if you're in Mojave or older, you'd see photos, moments, collections, years. With the exception of if your window is really tiny. So look what happens if my window gets tiny, okay? My window gets small, then you only see one of them and you have to click on one to see the other 4. Does that make sense?
No,
So
all I see is the word all photos.
All right, so then that's exactly what I'm saying. If you're in Catalina and your window is made small, then it will go down to all photos. Let me share it with the other computer now. Let me stop sharing with this computer. And now let me go to this computer now.
Yeah, it was tall. Okay, thank you, Deanna.
You're welcome, but you understand it, but others might not. So now that I said I'd share it, I'm gonna share it. So here's this computer, and this one now is showing me up at the top only the word on photos, and I have to click and choose years, month, days, and that's because my program is so thin that it collapsed to that. But if I make it wider, by widening it, now it says years, months, days, and photos. But when my program gets thin, see, like I made it thinner and I don't have that much, like I've gotten the width and I've dragged it to the side, then I don't see all, you have to go up this way to see them. So that's exactly the same for both programs, for both versions. It doesn't matter if you're in one version or the other. Okay, does that make sense? Does everyone understand what I did with that? I can share my entire screen and it might be a bit more obvious, but this is my entire screen. Hold on, get rid of this. And when a program is, this is what I mean by thin, versus thick. So I've widened it and I see years, months, days, all photos. I make it thinner to be able to see zoom on the other side. Then suddenly it goes down to years, all photos. I make it thin enough. I've even lost the sidebar. So I need to have it wide enough to see the sidebar. And then still this is collapsed. And then if I make it wider, then at that point there, I get all the four on top. Okay. So no matter if you are in Catalina or in Mojave, that is exactly the same. Please, everyone tell me that, give me a yes that you were able to do that by thinning, by squeezing or stretching and widening your program. Have you been able to see how the program shifts under your eyes? Suddenly you see it, suddenly you don't. Have you ever all been able to do that? Yes, give me a little yes on that. Okay, so that's why sometimes things seem to be there and sometimes don't. Now, I'm going to go back to the older version, Catalina, Catalina, to the older version, to Yosemite and High Sierra and Mojave, because those are the ones that see photos, moments, which I told you is kind of by date. So it takes a bit the spot of days and months and years. And then years shows you years. So the only one that's left that's weird is collections. Okay. Collections isn't there anymore because it's weird. Collections was Apple's intention, but it didn't work too well. Where if you look at my photos, get a gander at what my photos are doing. Here in moments, it's basically says on August 14th, you took these photos. On August 16th, you took these photos. On August 17th, you took these photos, right? So it's just giving me by date, August 18th. So this is all August 19th. If I go to collections, it kind of figures that between August 7th and 22nd, I was in the same-ish spot taking photos. And so it put it together as a collection. See how it goes from August 7th to August 22nd? So this is the computer going, oh, this is all one vacation, for example. So it joined all the dates that in moments I saw separately and called them a collection of photos. And the same thing for here. These were taken between December 26th and January 2nd. And instead of showing them individually, they're showing them it as a collection. It makes sense. Sometimes it was wrong, where you got photos of the same space that didn't match. So I don't know if you can see these here, but these photos are of Italy and Spain. And this is of my backyard. And they were put together in a collection just because they matched the same dates. But all of these help because this is my winter vacation. This is my summer vacation. This is another winter vacation. So it was a hit and miss. And so basically that's what collections is. It's also another grouping of photos by date and time that Apple decides to put together thinking, oh, these share location and time, so I'm going to call them something. But they dropped it. So this collections doesn't exist anymore. Now, because too many times it didn't work as neatly as these. So if you have the older version and collection works for you, then good. But if it doesn't, don't get too tied to it, because when you move up to Catalina, the collections doesn't work anymore. Now there's only photos, well, it's called all photos in Catalina, days, months, and years. And it's up to you to decide what it does now. And that's, I'm gonna stop sharing. So what it does now, for people who are ready to move up and want to see what it looks like now, it kind of does. So now I'm about to share with Catalina. It's all Catalina people. So what it does now is it does do years, months, and days, right? But it's not as clean cut in that, because instead of the moments or whatever just showed you all the photos of the days, now when you go to days, it still shows you a little collection. Because see, in the end, this is choosing to go from December 26th to 30th. So it is basically a collection, even though you're looking at it under days. They just don't call it a collection anymore. Then I have a day that only has one. Then I have a day that only has one. But over here, it joined October 22nd to October 31st, right? So it's still in October 18th, there's many of that day, so it puts them all together. So it still shows them to you in a way that isn't one on one. It still gives you a little like collection, but it's called days. If you go to months, then it gives you one huge collection, if you want, of everything from November and everything from December and everything from January. In the past, these two clearly would have been one collection because they're the same spot, but now in months it divides it into December and January. It's one same trip, but it switched months, so now there's two boxes for it. So it just shows you things differently. This is all Apple using the information, the metadata of the photo to organize your photos. One way or the other, that's all this is. So the only way for you to see your photos unorganized just by time and date is to click on all photos. Then they show up clearly just as one after the other. That's all that these are, one after the other, one after the other. So in both versions, all you get is one after the other is when you go to the all photos. Okay. Any other, that's clarification of all the stuff we did last week. I want you guys to see that if you go to your phone, they still do have the collections version. Okay. It's still on your phone, even though it has all days and years under albums, they still have collections. Let me see for a second here before I connect to my photo. Oh, no, the collections isn't there. Let me see all. Nope, they don't have it. They just have it by day, month, and year. Yeah, they don't have the word collections anymore. What they do have is they have something called For You, memories, and stuff like that, which is equivalent to collections. Okay, so I'm not going to show you the phone right now because I thought they still had collections, but it's not there. So, so you're not going to find it. Okay, any questions before we start making albums? Let me check what Carol's saying. The metadata for the photo is incorrect if we open photos in a CD. What?
I'm talking about like CDs that were created, like at Costco when you get your photos printed up, and it used to be if you want a CD, you get a CD.
Yeah, but the metadata should have stayed with the photo, so no, it should be correct.
Okay.
Can you change the data group? Yeah. So I'll teach you how to handle many photos at once right now for the albums, and that applies also to changing the date. It's how you, when you choose 20 photos, because you're gonna have to guess at the date when it's an old one, right? But if it's coming from a CD, the metadata on that photo should still be right. Just because it got burned in a CD, it's in the file. The file should have kept it. So that shouldn't be a problem. As long as you can see the photo, you should see its metadata. The issue is that with a scan, there is no metadata. The scanner is a photographer. A scan takes a picture of your paper photo and makes a picture. So it's correct that that photo got created, and the date on that photo is the date of the scan, because that's the moment it turned into a digital image. Okay. No, Pat, if it changes only the date on whatever you've selected. It doesn't know how to find the if it knew how to find the right duplicates, then we would be able to eliminate duplicates easily, right? So no, unfortunately, it does not. Okay. Her question, look at the chat, was if we change the photo date, does it change it onto the duplicate? No, because that's the whole problem with duplicates. You can't easily figure out where the duplicate is. The only way to see duplicates at this point is by going to photos and all photos. And then as you scroll down, you will see duplicates because they'll sit next to each other. Now, that only works if they are actual duplicates. I'm seeing these 5 photos here. I'm going to switch back to sharing. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Okay, so if you look at these 3 photos here, they look identical, right? This one, and this one. But they're not duplicates. If you look at the hand, it's moving a little bit and a little bit and a little bit. And it's just that it's 3 photos of the same moment. So that's not a duplicate. But you might look at it and think it's a duplicate, but it's not. So I'm going to go ahead and hit return to see it bigger. And if you look at this photo, that photo, and that photo, when you see them bigger, you can tell that they're not the same photo. There are 3 different ones. But seen from afar, they look like I have 3 duplicates. Okay, so you need to be careful with assuming that everything is a these 2 look like duplicates. But if I look at them, it's a slightly, where's the slightly different moment of the same photo. Okay, it's not a duplicate. See how here you can see the path and here you don't. So be careful. A lot of the times we discover that things are duplicates of us having clicked 2 times. Okay, now the photos that I'm showing when I show this mode are mixed, my photos with some of my son's photos, which is why you see a lot of school stuff that he has, because this is the computer I put Catalina on is his computer. So I put some of my sample photos, but then I still also have some of his photos. And this is examples of his steps to do origami. But he does with these things, and then he turns it into a little video. And so you see the steps where suddenly you see the whole origami come. He turns this into a little live action video. And that's why you see so many photos of this. But these are not duplicates. Between this one and this one, it's a different step. And so be careful with the thought that things are duplicates when they're just different things. Okay.
Deanna?
Yes. Yeah.
Are duplicates numbered differently? Is there some way to see that?
No, and I don't have a duplicate here, but no, duplicates are not. So right now I'm going to show you metadata so that you can find that out. So how do all this elusive metadata I've been talking about, right? How do you find it? And in able to know if this is a duplicate of this, see how they look like they're identical. In fact, if I do that and then do that, I can see that there's a little flip that tells me that it's not the same one, but there must be a different way to know if this is 2 of the same thing or if it's a duplicate. And the only way to tell is by checking out the metadata. So how do we do that? If you click on this little eye, now I do want the eye, Pat. Before I wanted the other, but see this little eye that shows up right there? Click on that eye. And when you click on that eye, you should see this pop up onto your screen. Okay, so this little box. Another way of finding it, if you go up to window and say info at the very top, I'm not able to share that on my screen because you don't see it, or you can get accustomed to doing the shortcut Command I. All of those options bring up this little window. So click on the little I, or hit Command I, or go to Windows Info. And this window is the metadata window. Okay, so look what's going to happen. I'm going to put this right here so you can compare. Here I have image 0294 PNG taken April 24th, 2019 at 12:03:39. There's no information about the camera. Now I'm going to click on this one, and the number is different, image 02393. So between that one and this one was taken at 12:02:53 p.m. This one is taken at 12:03:39 p.m. So these 2 look identical, but they are not. And that's another example of why you can't just easily assume that everything is a duplicate. They are photos taken. And to Marcia's question, no, each one of these has a different date and time. Even if it's off by 1 second, because you took many in a row in a hurry, it is not the same photo. And so it has its own number date and timestamp. So that is not considered a duplicate. Okay. So has that worked out? Have you checked your photos and discovered if they're the same or not?
Yeah.
Okay, now there's something else though happening. And if you look at your photos, some of you might have this thing happening where I told you this and this is two different photos. So I'm clicking on these two here, from here to here. And if I look at the metadata, this one says 0283 HEIC, and this one says O2H4. So no, okay, that wasn't the good example. There's another one. Oh, I had another one. When I find it, sometimes you find the same photo in JPEG or in HEIC version, and that is a bit different. Let's see. These are all, each one of these is different. Okay, so if you look, they look like they're the same, but the only thing that's changing is the file number. So for it to be a duplicate, when you click on one or the other, absolutely nothing has to change. It has to be exactly the same image number right there, exactly the same date, and exactly the same seconds. And then over here, you have the metadata of what camera took it. So you would have to see over here, it's saying Apple iPhone 8, back camera, 39 millimeters, f8, 40 by 40. This is the telling information of which camera took that photo. The photo, what type is, what exposure, what speed, what ISO. So that is all stuff that comes embedded in the photograph. And all of this has to be absolutely identical, including the place for it to be considered a duplicate. So then, no, so to Marcia's question, are duplicates numbered differently? No, they're not, technically. For it to be a real duplicate, it needs to be numbered and show every single bit of metadata exactly the same. But sometimes when you see two things that you can tell are completely the exact same moment, you might have it in clicking back and forth, and I need to find one that's a duplicate for me to do that. If not, I'll put up some that are duplicates. Then you get a problem where you know that it's the same photo. So this one and this one right here. Okay, I finally found one. See this one here? This one says image 0614, March 5th, 9:51:30. This one says image 0614, but it has a different time. So this is one that the original, or I don't know which is the original, but one and the other are the exact same file number, C0614. That is a duplicate, and that is purposeful. And I made this duplicate because I was wanting to work differently and edit one differently than the other. So these are actual duplicates. It has the exact same number. Okay, but the camera can see that the time is from when the date is different. March 5th is when I took it, 9:51:30. The duplicate maintains the same file number, but the schedule is different. March 6th instead of March 5th at 11:18, because that's when I made the duplicate. But the file number is the same. That is considered a duplicate. But because there's a change there in date, that's why computers can't go in and say, oh, that's the same photo. And that's why they don't pick up. Okay. You go look at photos in your computer, and I used to have you all having the same photos as me, and then we could all see the same information. But that's had its own problem. So now I'm testing out that you have to find something on your computer that considered duplicates and click on your own to see the info back and forth to see what I'm saying, instead of doing it on the exact same photo that I'm showing. So I'm ready to give us a break, but I want to ask if anyone had problems pulling up their info box. Does everyone have their info box? You're okay with that? Okay. So if there's no questions and you have your info box, then we'll learn much more about all of that. Let's first, any other urgent burning questions before we take our break?
No, thank you, Deanna.
Right, so then we'll meet back at 10:45. It's 10:31. I'll see you guys in a little bit. All right. Come on back. Well, if my dulcet tones don't bring you back, hopefully my cough will. Boom, I just swallowed something and it went down the wrong way. Ah, I was rushing back to the computer.
Becky's having trouble with her video, so she's gonna
Hold on.
sign off, and then can you let her back in?
Can you say that again? I didn't hear you.
Yeah, Becky's having trouble. Her video won't start, so she's going to leave and then try to rejoin. Can
Okay.
you let her back in?
Of course, of course.
Thanks.
Okay.
Diana,
Yes.
that was me, D-Rock or something.
Oh,
Because I have a Chromebook issue this morning, so I borrow my sister. And I said, oh, what happened?
all right.
So just to let you know. So
Thank you. That's good.
for work. So I'm back.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
But you know that even if you're on someone else's computer, you can always change the name by just clicking on the three little dots next to your name and saying rename and putting your name on it so that I see your real name during that time. So
that's great. Thank you.
even in over your little window video, if you hover your name over it, you'll see a little blue box with three dots appears. Click on those three dots and then you'll see over there that one of the options is rename. Or you can do that also in the participants window, or you can also go click and say more and rename. So there's 2 or 3 different places in case you find yourself again having problems and having to use someone else's, then that's how people know who you are.
Okay, thank you.
Unless you can show your screen and then I'll know who you are because I recognize you, but that still in the roster wouldn't help because when I go print out who was here, it prints out by the names that you assign yourself. So even if I remember it was you, by the time I do attendance 10 weeks later, I don't remember by then who D Grub was, based on that day. So I still need the name to be there.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
thank you.
So anyway, I'm glad you're back or here and able to participate. Okay, so now we have, I think we didn't leave any pending questions. My pending question was, did the info window with the metadata pop up for everyone? That was the, I'm looking at the notes. Oh, that was Becky saying she's coming in and in. Okay, so there's no other notes than that. Okay, so meanwhile, to everyone, as we're talking about these things, some of you joined us a little bit later today, and I just want to put again in the chat, if you look at the chat, I'm typing once again, and I just posted again the same list that I put it up a bit earlier. As I'm going through all these things, showing you stuff, for some of you guys, everything I say is new and you're hanging on to every word. But for some of you guys, you know this little portion and you're waiting for me to get to something you don't know. In which case, I want you to start looking at your photos with the eyes of finding photos that you want to crop or straighten, or that are too dark or too light or not sharp enough. I'm reading off the list, or colors that are off in one way or another, or photos that you want to change, to do fun things with it, experiment, and a few videos that you think if you put them together, you can make a little movie about a moment. So those are things I want you to start finding. And when you find one, we're going to make an album right now. It'll be the first album that we make for our class that everyone's going to make on their own. And we're going to call them Photos for Class. And you're going to find a photo as you're going up and down looking at the things I'm showing you, and you go, oh, this photo would work. And you're going to drag it into this album. So we're going to talk about what that does to the photo. Does it delete it, duplicate it, repeat it? What happens when you drag it into that album? So that you begin to understand. what's happening with albums, and we begin to make a functional album that as the weeks go by, we're going to start working with these photos that you're separating. Okay. So I'm going to go over to my, this time I'll start in Catalina. So I'm going to share my Catalina screen. So anyone who has the Catalina or anyway, any version, Mojave, Catalina, Yosemite, this is all the same. So the stuff that happens in the sidebar has not changed. The big difference right now between Catalina or the other versions is what I've shown you already, is the part that shows up here, the years, months, and days. That's the part that's different, okay? So for better or for worse, we've gone through, if you want, the worst of it, which isn't too bad per se. So oh, hold on, I'm having to sign in to make changes to this. You're not seeing it happening in the background, but there you go. Okay, so the rest of what I'm going to show you is occasionally there are some differences, but for the most part, there's no differences. Okay, so with this little info window hovering in front of us, I like to not have it hover. I like to move it over and put it on the side. But notice that when I do that here, since I'm sharing my window, then it falls outside of the window of what's being shared. So I'm going to leave it in front of our stuff for now. But later when I'm ready to use it, I'm going to share a different window so that we can have it on the outside. But I want this info window to be open. And if you don't have it open and you don't remember where it was, just go back to the eye, turn it on, and keep this open all the time. We're going to be doing a lot more with this little window. The other thing I want us to look is on the left, where you see the sidebar. So if you do not see the sidebar for any reason, then you have to make your window wider, because if your window is too small, like too thin, I'm making it thinner and thinner, then boom, see how the sidebar disappeared? So for those of you who are making space to see my me half of that screen, you might have your sidebar in this condition, in which case you do need to make it bigger. So you need to put your mouse on the edge of the screen and drag it open until your sidebar appears. You need to have it big enough to have a sidebar. Okay, that doesn't work. You need to have it big enough to have a sidebar. Without the sidebar, we can't follow the class as well. You can do it without the sidebar. Now, how many of you, by the way, there's still some of you who are on, there's a few of you guys who are on an iPad. I'm trying to remember who it was. I don't think she's in class today. Is everyone on their computers right now, or is anyone on an iPad? The first 2 days we had someone on an iPad, but I don't see her here today. Am I right? None of you is an iPad? Okay, because in an iPad you would see it without the sidebar. Okay, all right, if no one's on an iPad, then it doesn't matter. All right, so so here on the left side, you might see photos, memories, favorites, people, places, recents, and imports. You might be seeing, if you are on the old version of photos, you might be seeing less than that. If you are on a new version, you might be seeing less than that. Whatever you see there has to do with things that you might have already done. So if you've never opened anything, then you might not see recents. If you don't have photos that have metadata of location, then you might not see places. Okay.
How far back does recents go,
Um,
time-wise?
probably ever since it got created in Catalina, because it didn't exist before. So any photos that you've been opening lately. Recent.
What do you mean by lately?
Yeah, recents
I
doesn't
guess.
mean recent photos. It's photos that you've been interacting or doing stuff with. So that's what it means. It's not based on date. It's stuff that you've been working with or looking at or stuff like that. That's what recents mean. It's not recent photos per se. Look, when I click on recents, it goes from March 2016 to September 2020. So it's not about the date of the photo. Recents is if you've been working on it. And since I just imported all these photos last week for this class, recents is telling me that these photos are the last that I did something to. See what I mean? So recents is a bit of a confusing thing because with all of these being things that organize by time, recents you would think it means photos you recently took, but that's not what it means. It means photos that you've recently played around with. So say that I've been playing around with a photo that was taken a long time ago and I've been editing it or doing stuff to it, then it might show up in recents, even if it's an old photo. Okay? So recents is a bit of an iffy one, that it does not exist on the old, not the old, but on Mojave and whatnot. Recents is not there. It's not necessarily, you know, when we start working now with photos, editing photos and doing stuff to them, then recents might make more sense next week when I say, oh, check and see what's in your recents. Is that a photo that we worked on last week? And then you'll be able to understand more what recents is. But right now, just kind of let's ignore it because you don't have a reference to anything we've done in class to see what recents means. Okay?
Deanna,
Yes.
when I scroll on recents, it goes all the way back. It just starts.
Yeah.
It goes all the way back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway.
But they're not organized by
Yeah.
order of existence.
Yeah.
They're organized in a different way. So let's wait until we have a couple of weeks under our belts of working with photos, and then recents would make a little bit more sense to you. Okay. If you've never worked on your photos, like editing them or doing stuff to them, then recents just shows you kind of a similar thing than photos. So for now, let's ignore the recents choice. Those of you who have the old version don't even have the recents choice, so you can ignore it. Imports would only matter if you've imported photos that are not through your automatic iCloud kind of situation. So some of you might have imports and some of you might not. So for now, again, since I haven't made you import photos, don't bother looking at it. But if you don't have imports, you might not have the choice here. So the point I'm trying to make is that some of these things are here if needed. A lot of these exist only as needed. You're accustomed to things that are always there, right? But not anymore. Things are not always there. Things are always there only if they are necessary to be there. And that's the difference with programs. But this is true of all programs now, not just photos, where things only show up when they're needed. So let me explain. If you have put something in the trash, you would see here a little trash can, but I don't see a trash can. Do you see a trash can up here in yours? That means that you might have deleted a photo. But since I don't have anything deleted, the trash can is not there. So that's what I mean by you could have a trash can. In fact, the only reason you don't see it is because you haven't trashed anything. So let's go delete something. Okay, so go find a photo that you're willing to get rid of. And this is what I meant by we need to start having photos that we don't care about. So go choose a photo you don't care about. So in this case, I have a photo here and you can go to photos to do that. So, and I have a photo here that's just blank space that I know is meaningless to me. That is a mistake, maybe a photograph inside of a pocket. Okay, so choose a photo you do not want. By choose, I mean select. Don't worry, this isn't a dangerous choice because even when you trash it, you can still recover it. And now do a right click on it and delete one photo. Now, for some of you guys who don't know how to do a right click, if you're on a mouse, you hit the right side of your mouse. If that's not working, then I need to activate the right button on your mouse. So if right click doesn't work for you, let me know. For those of you on a little touchpad because you're on a laptop, then put 2 fingers down on your screen. The mouse doesn't need to be here. It needs to be right on top of what you're trying to do. So if your mouse is here, it won't work. It needs to be on the photo that you want to get rid of. Then click two fingers down at the same time on your touchpad, press down, and then you'll get this menu. And this is your delete one photo. Go all the way to delete one photo. Delete from all your devices. And this is the crucial question. If you are on iCloud, meaning if you have synced all your photos so that the choice is that all your photos taken on your phone populate on their own into your computer, that means you have turned on the check mark on the iCloud's photo library. If so, as much as when you take a picture, it shows up everywhere. When you delete a picture, it deletes from everywhere as well. I want this to be clear to you guys. So I'll say, yes, I don't want this photo anywhere. So I'll say delete again. And now, look at that. Over here, I have a little trash can that says recently deleted. That was not there before. So you might have had it, but I did not have it. Remember I said many times, you see a trash can icon, now suddenly it's there. That photo disappeared from here. And if I now click on recently deleted, there it is. It's in recently deleted. And it tells me I have 29 days left before it disappears for real. So did everyone put something in their trash? Don't worry, it's still in your trash. You can recover it. So at this point, it doesn't matter if you really want it or not. Just put something in your trash. Okay. Now, I'm not hearing many yays or nays. Everyone's quietly working, which is fine. But I just want to make sure that if you have not found a way to put something in your trash, please speak up now or say something. Or for those of you who are writing to me, write in the chat that you have not been able to. Okay. All right. So then you should all be seeing the little trash can that says recently deleted on your sidebar. Now, if this is the first thing you've ever trashed, like me and this computer, then the moment you get rid of this, and this is just for you to really see that, I'm going to say, oh, that was a mistake. That wasn't supposed to be gotten rid of. Oh, no. Because people make mistakes. So I'm going to select it again. And then I'm going to go over here and say recover. Sorry, it was a mistake. I didn't mean to trash it. Recover. So I'm going to recover it. But pay attention. Look what's going to happen. Not only is this photo going to go back to where it came, but then my recently deleted would be empty. So it's going to disappear from here again. So I'm going to say recover. No recently deleted items. If I go back here now to photos, there's my photo back where it came from, and my recently deleted disappeared. Now, if you have more recently deleted photos that you've been deleting for a while, then recently deleted won't disappear, right? But I'm trying to show you the example of on the sidebar, things only appear if they are actively being used. Otherwise, they just don't show up. Does that make sense? So some of you might not have favorites and some of you might. Favorites happens when you favorite a picture. And how do you favorite a picture? You click on the little heart that shows up. So look at when I hover over an image, see how that little heart shows up down there? It's harder to see when there's white background, but there's a little heart over there that looks like that. It's easy to see on a dark background. If I really want to say I really like this picture, then I click on that heart. By clicking on that heart, I have said it's a favorite. If I click on this one, no, not anywhere, but right there on the heart. If I click on this one, I'm telling everyone that those three are favorites. Now, what matters is that amongst my 40,000 photos, I can now go to favorites, and there we go. I have only the ones that I have favorited are showing up there. But if I say, oh, this was a mistake, this is not a favorite, I click on this again, I'm going to remove it from the favorites album. By clicking on it again, I turn it on, I turn it off. But if I'm looking at favorites, it disappears from the album. If I'm looking at it from the photos, all it does is it doesn't have a little heart on anymore. But if I turn it on or off here, all it does is the heart shows up or doesn't show up. But if I favorite here and I go to favorites, then it appears. And when I turn it off from here, it disappears from favorites. I'm going to disappear from here as well. And I'm going to disappear from here as well. And next thing you know, I have no favorites. So look, What happened in my sidebar? See how favorites disappeared from my sidebar? Because I have nothing marked as favorites. The moment I start marking something as a favorite again, boom, then my favorites appears and I begin to fill it up again. Does that make sense what I mean by these things being there or not being there, whether you are using them or not using them? They are called contextual menus, where they are only there if there's a reason for them to be there. So have you all experienced that? Maybe you already had so many favorites that you can't see it appear or disappear. Maybe you have so many things in your delete that you can't see it appear or disappear. This only happens at the beginning when an album, when you don't have much activity on it. If you've been using favorites for a while, the last thing you want is for your favorites to disappear. So don't unfavorite your stuff, but just try favorite a photo you don't want to really favorite. Go look for it in your favorites and then turn it off. So just to test that, go to any photo that you don't care about, give it a little heart, then go to favorites, and it's showing up in favorites, but this wasn't supposed to be there in favorites. So now click on that little heart for it to disappear again. Now, since I still have something in my favorites, it doesn't disappear from there. This only will disappear from the sidebar once I have nothing under the category of favorites. If I turn that last one off, then they'll disappear. I don't recommend, I think the favorites is something you do use and that you don't get to the point that there's nothing there. But since I have an unused library, I don't have any, and it's good to show you guys the whole on and off for favorites. Any questions about it? Yes.
Well, not about the delete part, but I noticed that above delete, it says hide one photo. Why would you hide a photo?
Sometimes you have photos that for some reason, maybe you want to show someone a slideshow of your photos and there's 3 photos that you'd rather not appear in the slideshow, so you hide it. Let me give you an example. So say that I am showing you my photos and then there's a photo of that's a bad one, right? So then you can not want to get rid of it just in case for some reason you needed it again or something like that, but you just want to hide it. So you can right click and say hide one photo. When you hide a photo, this photo will be hidden from everywhere, except for it can still be found in the hidden album. Okay. Now you can set the hidden album to be visible in library from the view menu, but otherwise it won't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, hide that photo. So remember the photo I'm hiding is this sunset behind this. Let's choose one that's more obvious. I'm going to hide this one, which is clearly there now. And when it's gone, you won't see it. So this little brown thing, I'm going to hide. So I'm going to right click and hide one photo. So it gives me that message again. I hide it and see how it's not there.
Mm-hmm.
But it hasn't been deleted. In fact, I don't even have it deleted here because it's not gone. It's just hidden. So how do you see those hidden ones? Well, you can go up to view and show your hidden photo album. If you do that, then here you have a little hidden. And there you go. That's my hidden photo.
Okay.
But because it's supposed to be hidden, in case you don't want the album to be there, you can also hide the photo hidden album. So it really remains hidden, but you do know how to find them because you didn't trash them, you just hid them. Okay.
Thank you. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's, I don't know, there's photos that you might not be willing to get rid of yet, but you don't want to be showing. So you would hide them. Okay. Showing as in when you scroll through all the photos, but they're still there. They're not completely deleted. That's what the hide means. And when you want to bring it back, so you would have to go to the hidden album, click on it, and then all you need to do is right click and unhide one photo. And if you unhide that photo, then it's gone again. And now there's nothing in, there's 0 photos in the hidden album. So everyone go and hide a photo and see if you can find it. Choose a photo. Never mind, because we're going to recover it, right? So choose any photo that you don't want to see anymore. I'm going to choose this one. I'm going to right click and hide one photo. Is anyone unable to do the right click? Does anyone need help with that? Okay, and then say hide. And then that photo, it was that little red guy. It's a little cookie monster.
Diana.
And then I go to hidden, and there he is. And then I'm going to unhide it. Yes, what's the question?
You know, if I use an iPad, how would I hide it?
I do not know.
Okay.
I'm looking at the photo. I do not, I have to say, I need to play around with the photos. I don't know how to hide it. I do know that you can delete a photo and you can copy it and you can share it and you can make it favorite, but I do not know how to hide it on your phone. So everyone pick up your phone if you want, and I'll show you how to make it a favorite. I don't need to show you. You can just pick up your photos, choose any, open up your photos app, click on any photo and hold it down for a little bit. Hold your finger down a little bit. And then you'll be able to let me just connect. Hold on, let me connect my phone so that you can see my photo. Let me actually connect it to this other computer. Can I have to. Let me see if I have a chance to show it on this one so I don't have to change share. Okay, so I'm going to put it in this computer. Let's see if it recognizes it. Okay, so I'm in this version, so I'm going to share now my phone. Here we go. Okay, so now you're looking at my phone. Okay, so one thing I can't demonstrate is putting my finger on something, but I'm going to put my finger on top of this photo right there and hold it down. And see that when I do that, I get copy, share, favorite, or delete. I don't want to do any of those right now. The others, I do want to favorite it though. Okay, so that's the equivalent. So I'm going to click on that little favorite, and now I have a little heart on it. See that? So that's the same for the iPad. But I don't know on your phone how to hide it. I don't know if you can. The phones and the iPads can't do everything the computer can, by the way. It can do a lot, but it can't do everything. Now, if you hide it from your phone, from your computer, it will be hidden on your phone. So if you go to your computer and hide a photo, if you are on the iCloud, that photo will be hidden on your phone. Does that make sense? Okay. So now that's how I would have added that photo to my favorites, right? So once again, you click, you hold it down, and then you can give it a little height. Okay, so I'm going to disconnect my phone and go back to my photos window. Okay. All right. So if anyone over the week has a chance to do, and you're an iPad user and wants to research, Google how to hide photos from your iPad, please share with me that information because I don't know that information. All right. So now here's the most important thing I want us to do today. I want us to create that album, the one that I said you're going to start putting in the photos that we're going to be working on. So over here on the left side, I have a new thing up here, which is my iPhone because I just connected my iPhone. I connected it with a cable, but it wasn't there before. So see, again, another example of contextual items. Now what I'm going to delete, I'm going to disconnect the phone and see how it disappears. So whatever you have here on the left depends on what is happening. It's not always going to be the same. So that's another example of now the phone is not connected anymore. All right.
Deanna?
So, yes.
I'm sorry. Once I hid a photo. I couldn't find it again. Would you mind repeating that where it went to?
Yeah. So go up to the very top of your screen where you have the Apple icon, which I can't show you here because I'm not sharing that portion of it. But you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
the very top of your screen, Apple icon. Then
Yeah.
you see photos, file, edit, image, view. Go to view, click on view, and say show hidden photo album.
Okay, thank you.
Show hidden photo album. And then the hidden photo album shows if you have something hidden. Okay? Anyone else who has another question about how things work?
But how did you unhide it?
Right click on it, and if it's hidden, it will now say unhide. Okay, so I'm gonna hide something again. I'm gonna hide this one.
Got it.
I'm gonna hide it. So now my hidden album is showing, and then when I want to unhide it, I right click and it unhide. But it won't say unhide until it's hidden, right? So you need to first hide it, then you need to view it, and then you can unhide it. Okay?
Yes.
So now let's go and get ourselves an album of photos where we're going to start collecting for us to work with. So here to the left, on the top you have library. Then you might or not, depending on how you're set up, you have a shared. We're going to ignore those. And then you have something that says albums. Now the default albums, without you having created any of your own, already have a media types and a my albums. And then you have projects with my projects. So all of that comes just with the original setup. Does anyone not have, you may have more than this, but does anyone not have at least these guys? Do you have, is anyone who does not have those? Then give me a little no, like you don't have them in your participants.
Can't do that.
Okay. Thank you. By the way, I'm looking at the chat and seeing that, you know, Yolanda and Carol and Pat helped each other with a question. So thanks for doing that. When I'm busy with something else, I'm not keeping an eye on the chat. Okay, no one's saying that you don't have, oh, Carol's saying you don't have it. So Carol, what are you missing? What do you not have?
I'm missing media types.
Okay.
And part of it, I think, is because last class, when I added what we imported, I lost all my other photos. I don't have that.
So are you working on the sample photos from last class?
No, but I'm working in the folder from last class. I took out all the sample photos, but I'm in that photo.
Okay, so then let me go ahead and share your screen with me, because those should be there. But I need to see through your stuff to be able to help you. Okay, so meanwhile, I'll tell everyone about that media album, media types, my albums and my projects. They will be there, but they could be empty. But they're there because Apple's put them there for you. It's possible to have deleted them the way Carol is saying that she doesn't have them, so I'm going to check. But for the most part, you should have them there, in use or not. Carol, as a reminder how to share, you have to find that share screen. There it is. Now, pull up your photo album. Okay. So go, okay, so you have my albums, but you don't have media albums. Go up to view, see if you've hidden it perchance. Up to view and click on that. Go to albums, 2, 3 down. Huh, you really don't have it. So what version of photos are you using?
This is on Catalina. This is the new one, and
this is the new one.
Yeah.
So I do not know where you might have your media album. So that might be something we need to actually research. If your media types have disappeared, where did they go? Okay, I'm gonna get myself a little note to see how to make your stuff appear.
Should I stop sharing?
Yes, please stop sharing. So when I ask you when things are there or not and you answer, some things are normal, they not be there, and I'm explaining when you're not there. But other things that should be there and you don't have it, you need to tell me, because then we need to figure out because something went wrong, especially when she said that it disappeared last class. That worries me. What could you have done for it to disappear? That said, I want you all to relax. The reason I'm not too panicked is because the fact that the album is not there doesn't mean that the photos she had in it are gone. Albums are not the place. If you delete an album, the photos don't disappear. They just aren't organized in those categories. So anyway, why was Carol on view? She was sharing something for me to see how her computer was set up, but now it's me again. So now I'm back. I'm going to share my screen again. And we're going to make an album. But I wanted to, as much as these things exist because Apple uses the metadata to make them happen, and we're going to delve deeper into these choices later. There's also the media types, which everyone should see other than Carol. When you see these little arrows, you can either click on the word media types and they show up there, or you can, and I like it better, expand by clicking on that little triangle, and then you see them here. So basically media types is Apple, once again, organizing your photos based on stuff it knows from just how you use what your photos are. So it knows that a video is a video. So if you want to see all your videos all together that you've ever made, click on videos. Instead of having to find your videos amongst all these photos, because it puts, see, here's a video. So there's a video amongst the photos. They come in by order of existence. But if you want to just see your videos, go to media types videos, and it collects every one of your videos. If you want to see selfies, click on selfies. And if you've taken any selfies, then you'll see all your selfies. Live photos, which is a bizarre little concept, but if you don't see it, you don't have any. If you do, you don't. I'm not going to explain what they are right now, but these are, panoramas, the photos where you click. So most of these are choices based only if you own an iPhone. So say that you took any of these photos on an Android. I don't think, anyone who has an Android, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that that you would have these, because I'm not sure if your Android does time lapse versus an iPhone does time lapse or slow-mo. Now you might have never played with your time lapse or slow-mo options of your camera or bursts or screenshots, right? You might have not done that. So you might not know, and thus you don't have these. But at the very least, most people tend to have at least a video. So under media types, you would only have these if you've created any. So how do we create these? By doing this in camera. So there are settings in your camera where you can shoot, in your phone where you can shoot. So I'm going to switch back to my phone. And in my phone, I'm going to unlock it. I'm going to go to my Photos app, and here's my Photos app, right? So I'm in my Photos app, showing you, this is my setup. I have a photo, look at those screens, look at all the screens I have in front of me. It's pretty crazy. So this is me showing you what my setup is, and that's why you have windows inside of windows inside of windows. But here, let me go to some neutral place so we don't get confused. So in your Photos app, you have these choices now. You have the possibility of doing photos, but if you scroll, you could do a square photo. If you scroll over, you can do a panorama photo. If you scroll the other way, you can do a video, a slow motion, or a time lapse. So these are choices that if you take a photo by doing a time lapse, then it's going to appear as a time lapse in the media types. If you did a slow-mo, and we've had fun throwing snowballs in slow-mo and seeing them disintegrate and just, you know, fun stuff like that, then it's going to appear. So you need to have done one of these for them to appear under media types. You need to have taken a video for it to appear in a media types. I saw a question there saying, is a video different than iMovie? Yes, a video is something that you take a clip right now of something and you're done, and that's one video. And then you press video again and you take another video, that's one video. In order to put them together to make a movie, you need the iMovie program. So each little clip of a moment, 1 second through 30 seconds of a moment of singing happy birthday, that's a video, okay? All right, before I disconnect the phone, any other questions about the phone?
Yes.
About these settings? No more questions about these settings? Yes.
Sorry, so screenshots are what we take with our phone versus a capture is what we do on our computer, is that right?
I call them all screenshots, so no, but whatever. They can be called screenshots. They can be called I guess some things call them captures. Some things call them print screens. There's all these different names for them, but it's a photograph taken of something shown on a screen. So if you want to take a screenshot on your phone, that really depends on the phone you own. Okay. So I can't, it's a combination of things. So say that I want to take a picture. This is my basic photo. You know, you can all put your desktop, so to say, of my phone, my home page of my phone. I can take a screenshot of this by holding down at the same time the volume and not the volume, the on button and my home button, and I press them both at the same time, and boom, I just took a screenshot of my phone. And is that little thing here down there? That's a screenshot I took of my phone, but that isn't dependent on the camera. It's something you do with buttons, but depending on your phone version, older versions, you had to do different things. So for my version here, which is an iPhone 8, that's how I do it. I press the start button at the same exact time as I press on that little home round button, and boom, when I do that, snap, I've snapped a shot of my screen. So if what I'm showing is a photograph, something somebody wants me to see, then that's what I just screenshotted. And they go and live in the photos album. So if I go into my photos album now, that screenshot will be there in my photos album. Okay, I'm going to switch back to my photos app. If you guys want to know how to do screenshots of your phone, you need to go online and say, my model is iPhone 10. How do I do a screenshot? And it'll tell you what series of buttons to press. Or my photo is an iPhone 6. And then, you know, each phone has a different way of doing a screenshot for their own phone model. And Android has a different way. So I do not remember, I've never even tried to know all the different setups. You just need to know the ones for your phone and try it. And when you find it and you do a screenshot, then here under the word screenshots, you will see photos that are screenshots of your own phone. Or, so for example, here there's me playing a Scrabble game, and whenever I got a good score, I guess I don't know what this is, me or my son, we took a screenshot of that. And so then that gets saved as a photo, okay? This is, my son was in this play, and this was displayed in Facebook, and I took a screenshot of that moment. And so there it is, okay? That's a screenshot of that moment. It's something that I took as a photograph of my screen. Here's an example of a screenshot exactly like I just did of just my screen, all the little icons of my screen. So over here, they get saved as PNGs as opposed to JPEGs. Let me bring the info window in. It's a PNG, screenshots are PNGs. This is a different file format, and it gives you the date and when. But this one doesn't have camera information because it's just a screenshot. So it doesn't come with all the information that a photo would have come with. Okay. Any other questions about any of these media types? before I move on?
Just a question about taking square photos. What's the advantage or disadvantage of a square photo? I've only done that by accident.
Yeah, A, it's trendy. B, Instagram shows things as square photos. So if you know you're taking a picture
Okay.
just for Instagram, you might take it as square so that later it shows what you want it to show. Now Instagram can actually change what you show, but for eons, Instagram only did square photos. So, and it's a trend.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no particular reason, but as much as the format that a camera takes is also randomly chosen to be landscape or portrait photo, if you take a square photo, it doesn't matter if it's landscape or portrait. So yeah, it doesn't really matter. It just, as far as I'm concerned, if it fits the photo better, but I only pretty much take in square if it's by mistake as well. I barely would ever purposely take a photo in square. I don't see
Thank
the
you.
point. Yeah. Uh-huh.
I have
So
a
Yes.
question
Yes.
if,
about live photos.
Yeah.
I have a lot of live photos that I didn't know I had live on. And
Yeah.
And
So,
I
so okay, so hold on. Please let me talk about live photos for a minute. I really want to get you guys to have an album to start filling up with photos for for the rest of the class, that list of photos I asked you to have. I really want to do that. And it's already past 11:30. So I want to do that first, and then I'll go back and keep explaining more about each type of these photos, including live photos.
Okay.
But don't delete them in that they are a photo you need. So that's all I'm going to say. But beyond that, I'll explain the details afterwards. But first, I want us all to get our own album. Okay.
All right.
Time-wise, I need to make sure that we all have that album. So now, if you click on this little arrow here, you can collapse it again so that it just all says media types again. Many times you don't need to even be in there. But if you know you're looking for a selfie and you're looking amongst 40,000 photos in here, it might be easier to find it if instead of mixed in, you just go over to media types, selfies, and then you're only having to scroll through selfies, which might be much fewer, unless you're a person who takes a ton of selfies. But if not, this might be a much quicker way to find it. Does that make sense? So again, it's all about finding things easier, finding only your videos versus having your videos mixed upon everything. So that's all this is. Now, when you don't want them, you don't have to have it open like that. You can just click on this little thing to collapse it, and then it takes up less space until you need it again. Now, the next thing I do want us to talk about is albums, because I want us to make a new album today. Click on albums, and you what discover is that when you click on albums, you might have a lot of stuff or you might have nothing. I'm gonna open it here again, and you might have stuff here or you might have nothing, okay? So these are not made by Apple. Everything else was made by Apple. This is made by Apple. If you have them, all of these are made by Apple. The rest of everything we've been seeing up until now was made by the program. Under my albums, if you've never made an album, you should have nothing. So what's under my albums is truly you making an album. So it's very possible that you see nothing. On the other hand, sometimes certain apps make albums. So for example, in this case, there's an album made by Instagram that's showing an Instagram photo, or there's an app called Snapseed that made an album for itself in there, or Adobe Capture or WhatsApp. So these are all different things that got made by different apps, okay? So any photo taken in WhatsApp is going in there and so on and so forth. So I'm gonna say that unless you have that situation set up, the only albums you should see here are ones made by different apps that you might have on your phone. So what do we do with this? We make a new album, and we make our own new album called Photos to Work With in Class. So let's go ahead and do that. There's so many different ways of making albums. One is to just write on the right side of album, there's a plus sign right there. That's the simplest way to make an album. So go and click on that. Now, if you are on the old version of Photos, or the new version of photos. It does not matter. When you click on the My Albums, you should see a little plus sign there. This is identical to everyone. Does everyone see that plus sign? Or a good question would be, if you do not see it, let me know. But it's on all versions of photos. Okay, so click on the plus sign, and then you can either make an album, a smart album, or a photo, or a folder. I don't want any of these two. I'll teach them what they are. I just want a simple album. So click on album. It opens up, and a little highlighted word ready for you to change. So you don't need to delete that word. It's all highlighted. All I want you to do is say class photos. Class photos to edit or something like that. But just class photos is enough. Okay? So if you got the name in there incorrectly, you can always change it. But right now we're going to call it class photos. When you're done writing it in, hit the return or enter key, or even click away in some neutral area, and the name will stick. Now, if the name turned out to be horribly wrong, written, mistaken, just right click on it, say rename album, it lights up again, and then you can rename it again. And then you can either hit return or, as I said, click somewhere over here. And now we've created an album called Class Photos, which is empty. It should have 0 photos in it. Okay, so if you're having problems with that, let me know. Other than that, you should have a Class Photos. I'm going to go ahead and switch now, just for the fact that I've been sharing with Catalina for a long time. I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to switch to sharing with my other version, just to equal opportunity here. So now I'm sharing on my Mojave version, but as you can see, it's identical. Under my albums, I had a plus. I created a Class Photos, but notice that in this album, I don't have any albums created. In this version, I don't have any other albums created. So this is the first album. And if I go to media types, I only have video, selfies, and panoramas in this one. I don't have all the others because the photos I have in here only have video, selfies, and panoramas. Does that make sense, you guys? How these appear or don't appear if your photo happens to have them on that computer. So anyway, does everyone have Class Photos? I need to see a big yes check mark if you created your new album called Class Photos. Give me a yes on your participation to make sure that you're all following along. This one is very important. Meanwhile, as you're writing that, there's a question that came up saying, do I need to take a screenshot of a photo or a photo? That is not a choice you have. If you have a photograph sitting around that you don't have in digital format, all you can do is take a photo of it. A screenshot would be a photo that's already in your phone. So then you would screenshot it. Does that make sense? If a photo, if I look at a photo that's on my wall and I want to put it in my picture and I don't have that negative, then all I can do is take a picture of it, and then it becomes a digital image. You would only screenshot something maybe that you see on the internet, or maybe you're looking at Facebook and something that you like appears, or a quote that you like appears. You can screenshot that quote and then it appears as a photo on your photo album. Okay, so it looks like everyone has made their album. So now let's figure out how to use that Class Photos album. So let's go back to Photos up there and Photos up here. In the Catalina, it'll say all photos instead of photos, but photos and photos, okay? And now let's say that I've asked you, if you go back to the chat one more time, I've just typed in the whole list again. Look for photos that you might want to work on, okay? So say that you look at a photo and you go, well, this is a nice photo, but I want to see it bigger, right? To see if it's good or not. So what I can do is select it and hit a space bar. And I go, oh, that should be snow. And it looks like gray, bluish kind of stuff. So that needs to be color corrected, right? So then I'll say, okay, so watch. Don't choose photos yet for this point, watch. So I'm gonna say, okay, this is the photo I might wanna work on. So then I can drag it. I can grab from here and drag it over until, see how when I hover over class photos, my mouse changes, the underneath class photo lights up and I see a plus sign. If I let it go right there, then it's going to create a new album of its own. So I need to make sure that class photos is lit up. Then I let go. So when I go look at class photos, oh look, now there's a photo in class photos. But if I look at my photos again, it's still there. This is not a duplicate at all. This photo exists only once, except for now I'm telling it, you know what? I want you to go and organize yourself into there. So this is pointing to that one, but it's not making a duplicate. This is a very important concept. This is just a way of organizing it so that later I can find it easily amongst all the rest, but it is not making a duplicate. Putting in an album helps you find it from all of your thousands of photos. That all it does, but it doesn't duplicate it. Then I might look.
Right.
What's that?
This is not Catalina.
This is not Catalina, but it doesn't matter. It's exactly the same in Catalina. So what's your question?
I don't. It isn't the same because I'm not seeing those.
Okay, so
I'm seeing years, months, days, and all photos.
yeah, that's all up at the very top. Okay, so now we're looking at the left side on your sidebar.
Yeah.
Okay, so this album you created.
Yeah.
So that's all you need to look at. It doesn't matter years, dates, nothing. You go up to the word photos.
Yep.
And then up at the top, click on all photos on the right side, and the Catalina, it'll be over here.
Yeah.
And then in your photos, scroll up and down, choose something that you want to work on. So say that you want, I saw a photo here that wasn't, that had a bad, I had a crooked horizon. Okay, so here's a photo that has a crooked horizon. See that?
Yeah.
So I might want to straighten that one because I told you one of the choices would be to straighten horizons. So then I'll grab this one and I'll drag it into your albums. Okay. Or here's another one that has a crooked horizon. Okay. Or one that's too dark. You can look at this one. It's so dark. I wonder if I can make it better. Now this is dark for a reason, but you can try and see if you can make it better. So now.
We're not filling the album with photos right now. We're just pulling the ones in that we want to edit.
Well, that is called filling the album with photos of photos you want to edit. So I'm trying to understand your question.
I thought we were just filling the album with everything that was. I didn't realize we were doing editing right now. Sorry.
We're not doing editing yet. I want you guys over this week. The homework is to look for photos that you might want to crop or straighten or lighten or darken or change the photos that you might want to edit, because the next time we meet, I want us to start working on photos, but I want you to already have photos in this album ready to go. I don't want you that when I say, okay, let's find a photo to crop, everyone spends 10 minutes finding a photo to crop. I want you to do that as homework, is to find a photo to crop or to straighten or to fix. So right now, this photo here has also a bad horizon, so I'm going to drag it in there. Or this photo is looking kind of weird with exposure, or like, here this photo might need more focus, so then I'm going to drag it in there. Okay, so I want you guys to do that, to find photos that you want to fix and to drag them in there. By now, I have dragged 3 or 4 photos in there. And so this one looks really dark. This is supposed to be a beautiful sunny day. And look how dark it is. This one is underexposed. So I'm going to drag it in there. So by the time I'm done, when I go to class photos, I've selected 5 photos that I know I'm going to want to work on. When I say next week, okay, everyone, find a photo you want to straighten, you'll come over here and you'll go, oh, here, I'm going to work on this one. But you will work on one of you that want to straighten. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but for me, who's never made an album, and I'm probably the only one in the class.
No, Not at all.
You don't mind if I make a title and pull everything in and create an album, you don't mind if I do that, right? Even if they don't need editing, just to get them all in one.
But what I don't maybe I need to explain the concept of album again, because I don't see the point. That's my only thing. Why would you put every single photo you own in an album when you already have an album created by Photo called Photos?
No, everything in the album. Let's just say I just created a Thanksgiving album, which I just did because I'm trying to practice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You don't mind if I take all the ones from that day of Thanksgiving and pull them all into an album and create one so I can practice this week, because I've never done this before.
No, 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 no. Of course not. In fact, as the weeks progress, we're going to be creating many albums. And if you want to create your own, my whole goal of having you work in your own album and your own photos this time around is so that, yeah, you go, oh, wow, I can do this. Let me create a Thanksgiving album and start making it. I don't mind at all. In fact, I encourage it. Once you start learning the power of albums, you'll be excited to discover, oh, you mean I can make an album of my Thanksgivings? Of course. All you need to do is click plus album and call it, I'm going to call it winter trip. You can call yours Thanksgiving. And then I'm going to go into my photos and I'm going to go look for my photos of my winter trip, which are down here. And I'm going to put them all in. And Carol, you asked about how to do more than one at a time. So say these are all photos of my winter trip. So instead of doing one and one and one and one, I can click on one, hold down my shift key and click on the last one because they go in order like that. So those are my 5 photos of my winter trip. Then I'll click on any one of them that's selected. It doesn't matter which. And I'm going to drag them all at the same time. See 6 at the same time to winter trip. So now when I go, there we go. There's my winter trip. So if you want to do that with anything that you have, please be my guest. That's the goal of this class. But please create a folder called class photos of photos that fit into this category of too crop, too straighten, too dark, not sharp, da 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 da. And put photos in there. As you go make your Thanksgiving albums, your summer albums, you whatever, you go, ooh, maybe this one is one I can work on in class, and drag it in there. And I don't care if you have 5 in there or 25 or 305. But when I say find a photo you can crop, I want you to click in here and go, oh yeah, this is the one that I was working on that I wanted to crop on. Does that make sense? And by the way, Leon's question, I'm sure, is about half of the class's question. The only other half doesn't have it because they've already done my class and they know what I mean. So when you say you're the only one who didn't do an album, no, anyone who's here is new to this class, I can assure you has never made an album. And everyone who has made one and has been in my class are the only ones who would have a knowledge of what I'm saying. So it's perfect. There's never a question that's too basic. Please ask all your questions. It is never too basic. If you think it's too basic, 3 others who aren't willing to ask had that same question, or 5 others. Okay. So thanks for asking that, Leon. And I'm willing to have you share your screen if you want to show me something, what you mean. If my answer wasn't, clear enough, I want to make sure that everyone right now understands the purpose of not only any album, but in particular, the class photos album.
Well,
Yes.
Like when I try to drag it over, the plus sign appears in the photo that I'm trying to drag.
Mm-hmm. So why don't you share your screen, and that way I can help you on your own program. And if it's the first time you share your screen, I don't think you have shared your screen yet, have you?
No, I did with Norma the other day.
Oh, there you go. Okay, there you go. You're
do
sharing your screen. So that's perfect. So you're sharing your screen. So now,
now it's not going to do it because I've got you on.
No, I'm sure it'll work. Don't worry.
Oh, it had a little green plus sign that as soon as
Yeah.
But where is that? It's not there now.
No, it won't be there until you put it over the folder, the album. So go take it all the way to the album. And there you go. So when you find the album you want to put it into, that little plus sign appears to warn you that it's dropping in there. Okay. So when you put it in there and let go, yeah. So now click on Thanksgiving. And there it is. Now go back to photos which is on top, at the very top. And it's still here. So it's very important for you guys to understand, please, 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 let me explain. You are not taking it out of photos. You are adding it to the album, but it is still in here. It does not leave here. This is not anything that will disappear from here. It is now being added. That's the plus sign to an album. It should still be here. So go find another photo from Thanksgiving, maybe the one to the right. Seems to be Thanksgiving also, the one to the right of that one. Yeah. Click on that one and drag it to that Thanksgiving album. When it says plus, let go, keep going. It's not saying plus yet. There you go. Now let go. It has been added. It's not taken away from here, but now go and click on the album Thanksgiving. Oh, did you drop it above or below? Okay, go try that again. Maybe you let go before. Okay, go back to photos and drag it again. And let's make sure that what goes orange is the Thanksgiving photo. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's when you let go, when it's right on the plus sign. Now go to Thanksgiving. There you go. It dropped in. You probably moved your mouse off of it the moment you dropped last time. So you need to let go when the plus sign is on for it to drop inside of that album.
Deanna?
Hold on, hold on. I want to make sure that we understand. Go back to photos, please, one more time. I want everyone to understand that those two photos, can you point to them, Leon? They are still here. These two photos in all photos are still here and will continue to be here because this is only one and one photo only. This photo does not exist more than one time. By putting it in the album, you have not created a duplicate or a triplicate. You have only told this photo to add itself to an album called Thanksgiving so that in the future, when you find Thanksgiving photos, instead of having to scroll through your 20,000 photos, all you need to do is click on Thanksgiving and it will easily show them to you. Okay, so that's all you're doing. Now see how your shared albums got closed up? No, sorry, not your albums got closed up. Your albums, so one underneath, see how your albums closed up? See how you're not seeing your albums? So hover over the word albums now. Yeah, and see how now it says show to the right? Yeah, click on that again. That by mistake sometimes does that and then you don't see it anymore. There you go, now you're seeing it. So in 2 years, when you wanna go see the Thanksgiving photos, instead of having to scroll all the way down, you can just click on that and they have been kind of sorted for you. That's all these albums are, okay? An easy way to find them. And you can keep putting them all in there one by one, or you can choose to select more than one by going click, shift, click, select 10 at a time and put in 10 at a time in that album. So are we clear now then that what's happening is perfectly right, Leon?
Yeah, but where's
right.
Tell me about that click, shared click.
So click on that. Okay, so that one that's already selected is selected. Now hold down your shift key.
Shift.
Keep your shift key held down.
Yeah.
And now, what's your last photo of Thanksgiving? Keep going to your last photo of Thanksgiving.
Right there.
Okay, click there. See how by holding shift down, they have all been selected at once? Okay. Now, let go of your shift key now that they've all been selected at once. Okay. Now go and click on one of them. Yeah, that one's good enough. Now drag, and you're dragging 35 photos to Thanksgiving. See the number 35? Oh, you didn't drop in Thanksgiving. Try again. It didn't, you let go before, or you did. No, okay, you did.
I got it.
And there you go. Now in here at the top, it says November 2019, 36 or 37 photos, whatever it says. There's 36 photos and 3 videos. So now, next time you want to see your Thanksgiving photos, you can go straight to this album instead of having to scroll up and down all the way through all your photos. But you have, if you go back to photos one last time to really bring it down the point, there, the photos are all still there. They have not moved. They are still in the passage of time, so to say, they are still in the right place. Now, if you click in any neutral place in any white area, all that selection will disappear.
Can
There
you
we go.
hear me right now?
hold on. I want to help other people too, but I just want to make sure that everyone understands that the concept that the photos stay in the photos choice. When you go to all photos, this is the one and only place where you see every single one of your photos, and they are assigned by time, always. Once you take some of these photos and put it in an album, you are sub-selecting them so that you can see them easily, but that's all you're doing. You're not taking them out of this mode. And I still need you here to create an album called class photos. So go to albums, make a plus sign. Everyone who does not have one yet, go to my albums, click on that little plus sign, and make an album and call it class photos. And then when you find a photo that fits the description of something that you might want to work with, so go back to photos now. And as you scroll up and down, when you find a photo that, here I see one that has a crooked horizon already, you can put it in there. So, you know, or a photo that's too light or too dark or too weird in color or something like that. Okay, so then grab, now it disappeared for a moment there. I had seen some crooked photos, but start trying to drag them in there. But now purposefully go back to your Thanksgiving photos, because I want to show people something. Go back to those Thanksgiving photos. No, in the photos mode. There you are. Okay, so guys, this is very important that you understand. He put all these photos in the Thanksgiving album. Are you guys very clear about that, right?
Yep.
Now, one of these photos, see the one that shows up at the bottom right now, looks like it's a bit crooked. Go back to where you have some farmland and stuff. Keep scrolling down a little bit more. See how some of them you could say that the horizon is a bit crooked. Choose one, I don't know. That one, yeah, the one to that one, to the left of that one. See how that horizon is a little bit crooked?
Yeah.
And that's a video, so the one to the right. Okay, so click on that one. Yeah, click, select it. See you guys how this could have, I'm pushing it here, but I want to make sure you understand this one is already in his Thanksgiving album. Now grab it from here and drag it into class photos. Keep going and drag it into class photos. Perfect. Now this photo exists here, but if you go to Thanksgiving, it still exists there, right? And if you go into class photos, it exists there. It's in 3 places, but there's only one actual photo. And if I now fix the horizon on this one, it's going to fix everywhere that it exists, because really it is truly only one photo. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I forgot how I even got that group. You said I put shift and then what?
Shift, and then, so it's like a bookend. You click on one end of it first, then you hold the shift down, and then you click on the last one. Okay. And everything in between gets selected. Okay, now, by the way, when I spend a lot of time with one person like this, guys, I want you to understand, I'm not helping just Leon. I'm just giving examples that apply to every single one of you guys. Okay, I just happen to be using his photos as an example. That I want you guys is not like, oh, I'm going to disconnect because she's helping Leon. Not at all. I am teaching the class when I'm doing this. Is that pretty clear? Yeah. So you need to keep listening. Now and then it's a personal problem and I'll say, well, let's do this later. And I did say I was going to help people with events later, and class is over. So I'm going to stop Leon's sharing. Thank you for sharing your photos with us, Leon. And I want to make sure someone was trying to ask something about albums, and then I want to talk a little bit about the events. So what was who was asking something about albums that I said, wait, let me finish with Leon?
It was me, Deanna, but I understand it now. Thank you.
Okay, great. Yolanda has a question. She has too many albums, so she's simplifying it. But let's talk about this next week, Yolanda, because I'm going to talk about folders. And so maybe that'll help you organize under folders instead of albums. Okay. So can you ask me this question again next week? I've seen Yolanda's albums. She is very organized, but there's a point where if you have 2,000 albums, or okay, maybe 300 albums, I'm not exaggerating, she does, then it still becomes hard. So then you have to start creating folders where you go, okay, all my Thanksgiving albums, or all my albums of the winter vacations, or all my albums of, so then you can make it easier to organize like a higher level of organization, which is what she needs, because she has many, many, many albums. And after you get to the point that you're scrolling down and down and down through your albums, then that's even hard to handle. So that's where folders come in. But I'm going to talk about that next week, and maybe I can use your example next week, Yolanda, to explain folders, because I know that that would be something that would be useful for you. Okay. All right. So unless there's any urgent, here's the thing I want to make sure, because I know class is over. I want to make sure that you all have a class folder, a class album, a class photos album, and that you understood the point for that. The point for that is for you to put in there photos that you're willing to, when I say, okay, everyone find a photo that we want to work on to crop. And then you can just go in there and find one. So that's your homework. Put photos in there. Even if there's too many, I don't want one example of each, but 3 examples of each. Put whatever you find. So that when I say, okay, here's how we crop, everyone has a photo that they're willing to crop, and everyone has a photo that they're willing to lighten or darken or straighten, or, or you might have something you want to do to it that it's not one of these things, and you can throw it in there and then ask me next week, I want to do this to this one, can I? And I'll go, yeah or no. All right. So photos you want to work on and ask me questions about, throw them in there, because now you already saw they don't leave the main album, the main photos. It's just an additional place you're putting them in. So they're safe there. You're not taking them out of anywhere else, even if they're in another album. They don't leave the other album. Leon's photos stayed in the Thanksgiving album, stayed in the photos, and also got added into the class photos album. Okay, that's what I want you guys to do. Okay, as long as you're clear with that, everyone is welcome to sign off, unless you want to hear my iPhoto events explanation. And Carol, who was one of the ones who had that main question, is not here anymore. She had to leave, which is a bummer. But does anyone else here have the events and photos question from iPhotos?
No.
Oh, well, then I won't explain it, because I don't have an example to give. I need someone to share their event, iPhoto events folder with me for me to be able to share that.
I do.
Oh, you have it, Charlene? Okay.
Yeah.
So are you willing to share your screen then, please? Because I can't demonstrate that because I don't have that.
Okay.
So go ahead and share your screen. Everyone, by the way, if you're going to drop out, it's been great seeing you. And if you're going to hang out, please hang out. It's your choice now.
You were also going to explain to us how to find out which apps will not move up to Catalina.
Okay. So Charlene, are you trying to share? Do you need help reminding you how to share? You haven't shared for a while. Charlene, find the green share screen button. And then there's one more step where you need to go to the bottom right, and you'll see a share screen in blue, or share.
Okay.
There we go.
Got it.
Okay. Okay, so guys, are you seeing her? Okay, stop. You're scrolling so fast.
Oh.
Scroll up. No, it's okay. Scroll up a little bit more to where we see the word albums, because this is a perfect example of
Too many.
well, not necessarily too many, very well organized. But see, she has albums and folders. This is what we're going to talk about. Can you open the top folder, the New Zealand and Melbourne, by opening up the little?
Not full. It was. I didn't.
It doesn't matter. Open the little with the arrow. Go to the arrow on the left side of New Zealand. Click on the arrow.
No, but there's nothing in it.
It's okay. There's 2 albums. It doesn't matter. I'm pointing out how when you have a lot of something, you can put albums and collapse them into a folder. So, and Yolanda just left, but this is her situation too. So now, can you go to a folder where you think you do have more albums in there? Oh, there you go, Zimbabwe, right there. You have a ton under Zimbabwe, April 2018. So under this folder of Zimbabwe, April 2018, she then has individual albums of each one of the different trips or events she remembers. Now, maybe you don't need to be so detailed. Maybe you do, depending on if you're going to be doing an article about your trip, you certainly want to be really detailed. If you just want to remember the trip, maybe you don't need so many. It's up to you. So this isn't it's a good or bad, but notice that she has a number under George's Lodge. There's 42 photos. Under Game Drive, there's 34 photos. And if you want to remember which one it was, then you do an individual album like she's done. So this is an amazingly good job of organizing, which for some people is too much, and for some people it's perfectly right. So for example, I know Annette works with family genealogy, so she would have an example like this where each group of family members would be divided like that. Whereas for other people, one big folder called family is good enough because they just don't care about individual separations of which line of which family comes in. So it's your choice how much you organize things. Some people might make one folder called Zimbabwe with 700 photos in it, and others might decide that's an important one to subdivide. It's your choice, but this is how you would do that. Now, at the very bottom, you see how she has photo events. So can you click on iPhoto events, please? Just the folder itself. So in this case, she was already doing this organizing, okay, when she was in iPhotos in the past. So in your case, Charlene, these aren't the random iPhoto events that iPhoto created. Rather, you named them, and you already had like January 2015 photos, last day and stuff like that. So those are ones that you created, and these came over as albums. So you're welcome to make an album called whatever this place is and just drag this album into the right place. But if you scroll all the way under, can you keep scrolling down? Because are there any that are the ones that iPhoto creates? Keep going all the way to the bottom.
There's a lot of them all in here that are
loose, that are just dates, right?
Right, and it's empty in my folder. Let's see. Wait. This one, Thailand and Laos.
Yeah.
I had all those photos up there. Now they're down in iPhoto events. So all of these,
Chiang Rai,
Patera, Chiang Rai, those are all in Thailand. They're no longer in the folder that I made them. Now they're under iPhoto events, which is kind of weird.
Yeah. There's different ways of importing the photos from one app to the other, and depending on how you did or didn't do it, when you upgraded to photos, whenever that happened, when did that happen? How many years ago did you do this?
Oh gosh, I didn't upgrade from iPhotos to photos.
When did this happen? When did the whole iPhotos events thing appear for you? It's when you switched from iPhotos to photos. Yeah. Do you remember how long ago?
Right now, to get iPhoto events, I just started getting this once I went from Mojave to Catalina. I've never had iPhoto events before. And I've never had Play Memories mobile.
Oh, by the way, hold on. I have something.
Oh, no, wait.
Wait. Can you scroll all the way to the bottom? Because there's something I want to show. Susanna, go all the way to the bottom and say photos, not an album. That's a smartphone. I believe we created this last time, didn't we?
No, a friend showed me how to do this. She did a query.
Yeah. So I'm going to teach you smart folders, and I was going to say one option that you can do is have the computer tell you what photos are not an album by create, but you need to create that as a smart folder. I'll show you that when we create a smart folder.
Okay.
That's all. So that's a solution.
So
yeah.
Imaging Edge Mobile is something that when I go on a trip, from my Sony camera, I can download to my iPad, so I have it in 2 locations in case I lose one or the other.
Yeah.
So I've never had this Imaging Edge mobile as a folder either, and,
Mhm.
and that has 4,300 photos.
Oh.
So,
Mhm.
you know, this is, you know, some of it's Japan, some's Barcelona. They're just
Well,
from
that is a problem of, because when you use an app like that, it duplicates the photos. Instead of using the cloud to duplicate the photos, it's duplicate them into the iPad. So Catalina brings them in, and thus they're all duplicates. These are all photos that you probably already have, but now this is not the same as an album where things are showing. This is actually probably a duplicate has been created. I would assume, I'm not sure, but I would assume that if you go to the date of this photo, you probably have 2 of them. One that is lying in whatever album you made for it, and one that is in the Imaging Edge mobile. Because this app forcefully created a duplicate for you. So I can't speak to that one right now, because that one is a different issue. But all the rest, so scroll back up to the iPhoto events. The ones that are just dates, so stop. You're seeing a whole bunch right there that are just dates, like September 7th, April 25th.
Oh, yes.
Going down. That's the example of people who are not organized like you, okay, who didn't create their own albums. Then this is an example of what iPhoto did. For each day that there is a grouping of photos, it created an album, which now we wouldn't do that necessarily, right?
See,
so the ones called Lisbon, Madrid, Barcelona, you created that one. But the ones that just have dates were created by the computer. So those that have no reason to be, if they truly have no reason to be, you can delete the album. The photos will stay in the stream of, you know, November 2013. If you go in there, they'll stay, but the album doesn't need to stay. Now, if you look at the album and you go, oh, this makes sense because that's when I was taking such a, you can right click, rename it and call it something that makes sense for you. But other than that, those were not created by you. The dated ones, those are created by you. The named ones, those were created by you. Now, what you're saying is that these weren't here before.
No.
So, but they were there somewhere. You created them at some point.
But
These
like
are,
this one is a, you know, when I go to remove or, remove from album, I thought it said delete from album.
No, so that's the thing, is that if you want to get rid of this album, so say over there it says June 2015 photo stream. If you were to delete that album, okay, so I'm not going to make you do it, but go over to the left on the sidebar. Go to the sidebar.
Okay.
Go to the sidebar. It says June. No. You were there. Go to that. Click on that. Right click on that. No, not
okay,
not
got it.
Right click. Okay. Now see how it says
delete album.
It's behind us. I'm not seeing it, but underneath it says delete album.
Yeah.
If you delete album, those photos will not be deleted. They just won't be in this album anymore. But they will still show up when you go into your photo stream and you go to June 2015. These photos will be loosely distributed. In fact, these will now go and jump into the not in an album if you delete the album, but the photos won't be deleted. So if this album means nothing to you, you can test it. So go ahead, and if it doesn't mean nothing to you, go ahead and say delete album, and you'll see how it'll tell you. Are you sure you want to delete the album? The items in this album will still be visible in your photo library and in any other album that contains them. So if you did put these photos in an album, they'll still be there. This is the only thing that's being deleted, that album. So any album that's senseless to you, just delete it. And an album that makes sense, Chiang Mai, just drag it back into the Thailand one.
Okay, because that's what kind of messed me up was I had made all these albums, and then when I go to Thailand, Laos, they're not there. It's empty.
Yeah, so, every time Photos updates, there's some quirk, and it happens to some people and not to others, right? That's why you should, every time you update your computer to a new app, new operating system, you should always do first a time machine backup at the very least, because if what happens is too drastic, you can always save it that way. This isn't necessarily too drastic, what you need to do is reselect anything that has a name that includes Thailand and then drag them all into the folder called Thailand. Try it with one or two. Go ahead and click on Chiang Mai, yeah, Chiang Rai. And you can go and click it on the sidebar too. It doesn't matter. Just sit it. Okay, now go all the way up to your Thailand folder. Which is at the top. There it is, Thailand and Laos. So now, oh, no, don't click there. You need to be.
I know. Mistake.
So, no, it's okay. So go back down to one of the Chiang Mai's. There it is. So go to Chiang Mai. You can.
Let me see. Chiang Mai.
So there's Chiang Mai. Okay, so you can don't click twice because you lit the name up. So click away again. Yeah, click. Yeah, now you can drag it right now. You can click from there. Yeah, just a single click. Click and drag right now. You can drag it all the way up and use your scroll bar to go down and keep going. I think it's higher up. That's Zimbabwe, so it's higher up. Keep going up.
Yeah, where is it?
You had it at the very top. There it is, Thailand.
Okay.
And drop it there. And there you go. Now it's under. You can close the others. You can close Zimbabwe, close Japan. And there it is.
Okay, got it. Okay.
And that's one way. Or it might be easier, go back down for a minute to the iPhoto events. Yeah, click on iPhoto events now, the album iPhoto events. Okay, now scroll up. Don't click on anything. Scroll up now until you see Thailand, which is at the very top.
Okay, here.
Okay, now, no, don't click.
Okay.
Now you're seeing iPhoto events. So now go grab another one that says Chiang Mai or 2013. Grab it and drop it in Thailand up higher. There you go.
Okay.
Now see, now go to 2013 Thailand because I can see it right. No. Oh, sorry. The names are all the same. Go to click on iPhoto events again.
Yeah.
Okay, scroll back up. Okay, I want to show how it disappears. So now go leave that exactly where it is. Go with your mouse into the area where it says Chiang Mai 2013 Tiger Kingdom.
On the left.
On the right. On the right. See how you have Chiang Mai, right above Luang Prabang, all those. I want to find one that's very obvious, like the photos. See the Tiger Kingdom that has those big photos?
Yeah.
You can visually see it there. Okay, Tiger Kingdom. Click and drag it into the left sidebar.
Okay. Into Thailand.
Into Thailand and let go. See how it's disappeared from by photo events? You are truly moving it. See how that one is not there anymore? Tiger Kingdom is gone.
Yeah.
So that's what you need to do. Now you can select a whole bunch at the same time now instead of doing it one by one. Go and select Chiang Mai, Thailand, Patra, Chiang Rai. All of those are the same thing. So select them all at once by clicking on the first one.
Yeah.
Select that and then drag them all back in there at once. So boom, now you've dragged 8. And so by doing it that way, nope, you dropped them off in Spain.
I did. Yeah, I put it above. Got it.
So select them all. You've got from there. Now click Shift, select Ram Prabang, click. You're clicking in a way that it's highlighting. The way you're clicking it, don't do the name. Click on the icon, and then you won't have that problem anymore. Then like on the little icon next to the 2013, there's a little icon, right? No, to the left. Move the
here.
Yeah. Yes, instead of clicking on the word 2013 or Luang Prabang or CR, there's a little photo to the left, right? See a teensy little photo.
Right. Okay.
If you click there, you won't get that thing where the names keep trying to get changed for you. So click there, Shift, click to the top.
I'm shifting, but.
Oh, once they're in there, they don't do that. Okay, so those you're going to have to put in one by one.
Yeah, I can just drag it and then put it in.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. And if, as I said, if you drag from the actual little icon, you won't have the issue where sometimes their names are changing.
Okay.
Okay. So lots of explaining, but there you go. Now why it happened? I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was making me crazy.
I know. So it's getting really late. So I'm going to do a real quick share of how to see the programs to see whether they are ready to be updated to Catalina. But if if what I share isn't explained enough, please call Mac again and let them walk you through it, because I do need to go. I have a meeting in 20 minutes I need to prepare for, so I need at least 10 minutes to prepare for it. So I'm sharing, otherwise I'll can show this again next week. But anyway, you go up to your Apple. So if you're looking, let me get myself a little spotlight so you see my mouse a bit better. Okay. So why is my spotlight not showing? How funny. For some reason the spotlight is not showing on my mouse. Anyway, up here where you see the Apple, under Apple, you go to About This Mac. And in About This Mac, are you seeing what I'm sharing? No. Oh, it's the other window this is the window that's sharing, that's why. Okay, so in the Apple, click on About This Mac and this window will pop up. Okay, this window has a couple of tabs here that gives you different information. Okay, but under Overview, you also have System Report. Okay, so we're not going to any of those. Under Overview, click on System Report. And under System Report, there's a whole bunch of information, but hardware, network, software. If you click on software, over here, this information, one of these, and I'm trying to remember which. For example, here it says legacy software, CSS 32. There's one logs, one of these, and I can't remember which right now, shows you is it installation? One of these, well, I believe it's just under software. I can't remember which. It's showing up a bit differently. One of these should show you all of your software and tell you whether it's 18-bit or 32-bit. So the word I'm looking for is this one, the 32-bit portion of it, right? But this isn't, so for example, my X-Ray, if I click on it right here, this is my, remember I told you I had a monitor, a color monitor, a calibrator. It tells me that it works, that it's a 32-bit and it's not gonna work. So I can't find where it's showing it, but it needs to be 64-bit versus 32-bit. Can't find it right now. It wasn't under legacy software. This is new. This showed up with my latest app. It wasn't there before. But anyway, when it says Reason 32-bit, that's because that's old. It won't be usable anymore. Needs to be 64-bit. But I can't find right now where it's showing me all my software. It's only showing me, this changed. Before it would show you all of your software and tell you what didn't work. Now, maybe it's better. It says legacy software and it's telling you which ones won't work. So that's good, but there was one where I could see my software. But anyway, it's somewhere over here. I'm gonna look it up and give you guys a link to it, or you can, online. I'm just gonna Google it in Apple. They have a whole explanation of how to do this. But I haven't done it for quite a while, and so it's changed a bit. I haven't done it for like a year. But this, maybe it's profiles? No. Right now I'm only finding it under legacy software, but that's where you'll find the information of what doesn't work. So I'll send you an email with the information, but the important thing is, how did I get here? Because that won't change. You go to Apple, About This Mac, and then System Report. And that's where you find all of this internal information about your computer. Okay, so I will look for that link and send it to you. And then if you still have questions, go and try with the person who might help you more than the person who helped Annette. All right. I gotta go. So I'll look for that link and send it to the whole group. But other than that, it's nice to see you guys, both of you. And I don't see Charlene, but nice to have helped you too. And I'll see you guys next week. Okay. Bye.